Mm. Um, okay, perfect. Sorry, I was just looking at something to try. I was gonna do it in the right place. All right, it is now 5 o'clock. Calling the meeting to order, June 6th, regular board meeting. Looking for a motion to establish the agenda.
So moved.
Seconded. And all in favor, students? Aye. And directors?
Aye.
Aye. 2050. And superintendent report.
Great, thank you. It's great to see everyone here as we move through. I know that we'll have some recognitions a little bit later, but as Asha takes her seat for the last time tonight, you know, I'm sure there's lots of mixed emotions, maybe mostly happy, given everything going on. So the one report I just wanted to provide, I'm going to share my screen here for a moment. I did want to give you just a quick update on enrollment, especially given the changes with open enrollment and some other things happening. So this is not a long report, but just to give you kind of an idea of where we are. Always going back, of course, to the OEs, and that enrollment it plays a big factor in all of obviously the things that we do, but kind of centering us back, you know, over our trend, and really as we look down into the projected enrollment there, I think that's what's most important to go back. That was the Davis 2 that we were looking at. And so in this kind of 24, 25, 25, 26, that's where we started to get down into that 38, 13. And I want us just to remember that for a moment. But let's look this year first off. The June enrollment report, you know, where we ended up on the average was almost exactly where it was budgeted, and that's been tracking all year long. And so a big credit to our finance team and our operations team, Director Sullivan, Director Adams, and others, to be that close. I won't hold them to it again next year, but I know we'll be close again, but that is incredibly close to only be off by 1.5 students. The high school, of course, as you've seen throughout the year, trended lower than our budgeted. The middle school slightly above, and then the elementary really carried the day on that. So we're thinking a lot about that for next year, obviously in the budget that you're approving here coming up.
Quick question on that last one. Any hypotheses on the high school numbers? Like, did we see more students that were gone for periods of the day, or that did run and start, or like, was there a trend?
I think it's more on partial enrollments. When they hit junior and senior year, their enrollment drops, and this is our first year projecting that. So if that's the reason I can see it, running start did not increase greatly. It was more just partial schedules. And we started the year a little higher, but then as the year started, it just dropped.
So like, so if a student takes 7 classes, like freshman, junior, sophomore year, they're gonna have room in their schedule and then can choose not to.
Right.
Interesting. I mean, yeah.
And I
Wonder
think,
how we might want to accommodate. You
so
know,
we're taking that more into account next year. I mean, every high school is different. They saw similar trend. We've talked about this a lot. So they saw similar trends at Vashon High School. I think just we've accounted for that differently this year, which are in these numbers here. And so the high school, we're projecting at about 1,378 FTE. Right now, if we were to start school tomorrow, they're right about 1,363 FTE. So I think we're going to be a lot closer. IMS is tracking right on, and elementary isn't quite there yet. That's normal this time of year because a lot of our kindergarten and first graders still haven't enrolled or come through, and so those will both increase. So I think we're looking really good in terms of our projections so far, based on what we're seeing and how we're accounting. One thing the high school is doing differently as well, first time ever is next week, they will be showing preliminary schedules to students instead of waiting all the way till August. So that students, they won't see their teachers, but they'll see their courses. So we can make course corrections now rather than in August after we've already committed the FTE everywhere. So Principal Wold and that team have really been pushing on that. So that will be a new feature for us, which I think is going to help us continue to be more consistent and on target.
So when you're talking about this enrollment, obviously there's lots of reasons why we care about enrollment. Mostly that our students, that we're doing something right and our students are successful, but for this and kind of finagling the numbers, it's based on budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really driving the budget, which is why I thought this would be helpful now rather than waiting till June 20th so that it's all kind of coming together. The last update.
Wait, Eva.
Oh, sorry, Eva.
Is open enrollment like factored into that?
Perfect segue. Yes, it is. And here's where we stand right now for open enrollment. These are approved students. We have some who are in the queue being processed still, or we are waiting on transcripts from other schools or different documentation. We have 7 8th graders who have open enrolled, 6 9th graders, 5 10th graders, 2 junior 11th graders, and no seniors. From our staff, we have 63 students coming to the district, and from the city, we have 4 students. That's as if we started tomorrow.
And that's, those aren't necessarily new students, they're just, those are the numbers.
These 63 and 4 at the bottom here, those are largely students rolling up through our system. So Ava, your question in particular is these students right in here, they are factored in.
Okay.
Yes.
Have we thought about doing any targeted communications for those employers that are on the island, making them aware of our open enrollment policy, at least for next year, such as riot games, grocery stores, large?
That's a great, I think that's something we could definitely look at, Director Glowitz. We've had conversations with Riot Games leading up to this, but I think that's a great idea. I'm gonna make a note of it.
I think that's a good idea. When are they anticipating arriving?
Last spring,
2028?
this spring that just happened,
Oh, okay, so. Got it,
any minute now,
right.
with the light rail.
And Ian, I think we can work with Jen from the chamber on that, to probably help us out with that. The other, kind of a announcement or part of my report is probably gonna be more in Asha and Ava's report, but we have, a new student whose face is gonna become very familiar to yours, in the coming year. As we move forward, but I won't steal your thunder because I think it's part of your report. So that's it for me.
Thank you. And they don't get to go yet, so.
Right.
Well, it's just not right now.
Sorry, Lucy.
No, you gotta wait for more of an audience. So next up, we have full governance process monitoring, board policy 1800 OE1, student focused fundamentals, fundamental 1, personalized learning.
Great. This has been what we've called the vision dashboard over the years, and it's been a selection of survey items from the EES that's helped to inform this. As part of your work going forward next year, I know you've had conversations around maybe re-looking at the EES. Are these the right questions? Maybe there's some others that map to it. I think the biggest takeaway for me on this one, and I'm going to show you another slide in a second that I'm seeing it as well, and some of you have caught on to it. It feels like our staff perception of personalization as evidenced by either rigor or challenge, rigor, engagement, support from the teachers. It feels like we're on the incline with our staff. Our staff is really perceiving that we're making some gains. For example, the very first one in the top left, we can pull up the vision dashboard. The top left is we reflect upon instructional practice to inform our conversations about improvement. You can see a 3-year steady incline from there. Another one would be, if you look over at to the right underneath safe, supportive, and vibrant learning. Instruction is personalized to meet the needs of each student. And you can see that coming out of COVID, we've kind of started to get all the way back to where we were pre-COVID. What's interesting though, is our families and our community are seeing it differently. Our families in our community are seeing actually a gradual decline in many of these, as evidenced by things like additional help is available to my student if they need it. That went up kind of after that COVID drop, but now it's slipped back again this year. Teachers accommodate my students' individual needs by adjusting instruction, a slight tick back down. And so I'm pleased that we made what seems like a pretty good rebound in a number of these out of that 22 kind of coming out of COVID survey. But I'm concerned that our staff and our families are seeing it differently. And then if you take a look at the students, they're kind of right in the middle. A lot of theirs are kind of stagnant. They're more similar there. So an example would be underneath safe, supportive, and vibrant learning. The students, my teachers find other ways for me to learn things I find difficult, pretty static there. And what I want to look at on that and kind of show you quickly. Let's see here. I'm going to take over just for a second. We have another report that isn't in your report here, but I find it quite interesting, and we've been talking about it already as a team, and we'll continue. I think this is another kind of indicator of a similar story. The blue on there are the staff responses, the red is the student, and the families are in gold. And you can see that not just in the areas of personalized learning, but in a number of areas, there's this kind of mismatch in perception of what's happening. So the collaboration and communication, when they compress all those questions down, there was a 14% positive increase amongst our staff, but a 6.3% kind of to the negative from our family. And while we may still be high, this discrepancy here, I think, is really something that we're going to need to look at and probably make part of our school improvement plans as we're moving forward. Because there's a miss somewhere, and it could be just the nature of interpretation of questions, but I think there's something probably a little deeper there. And so when I looked at the vision fundamentals, I immediately went to this one and said, there is some similarities here. Neither right nor wrong, but I think it's worth looking into. And so we'll be doing some work around that one. When I do the overlay of this compared to other school districts or whatnot, we're doing fairly well in all the categories, but I think we have to always think about, how do we compare ourselves to ourselves? We expect a high standard. And so we're looking at some things there. So those were some noticings I have, but I would love to entertain and go into a conversation with you all.
Before we hit individual issues, because I know that there are, I just wanted, Fred and I talked about this today, and kind of a plan moving forward, because understanding that there's been some, this report is minimal. And just kind of how it came to be. So when we restructured the fundamentals in 2018, 17, 18, I think.
17, 18, and finished them in 19.
We really, I can speak to this as just being a part of the board. We really, we consolidated the fundamentals. We thought when we were getting the reports before, we were doing them every year and all at level 2. That's how we came up with the level 1, level 2. And there was a tremendous amount of redundancy, and it was a lot of staff work where it was to the point of spending all their time on reports rather than innovating curriculum, blah, blah, blah. So I think that in looking at then the last, gosh, that's a long time, 6, 7 years. I think, in my opinion, the pendulum has swung too far back, pulling back and not getting, I don't think we're getting the monitoring. We're getting the questions answered that we want to be getting answered. So what we talked about was adding this to our agenda for our June 20th study session for moving forward, really setting up a plan for next year of what fundamentals in terms of monitoring for so it's the board's work, do we dive deep in and really like, what is it that we want to learn? How do we want to monitor and what do we want Dr. Rundle to report to us in terms of monitoring? So I just want to keep us from going there too much with the frustration in this report, because it doesn't speak to me either. I totally understand, but it's what we asked him to do. So he was reporting on what the previous boards had asked him to do. We can change that anytime we want, as long as there's time for him to direct his staff to present to us the things that we want presented to us. So recognizing that I think, and I, from what I'm hearing, there's probably more agreement with that this isn't really telling us. And we're, my hope is that in the next couple months, we have good discussions on what it is that we're looking for from this fundamental, in terms of the board learning and monitoring, and then how can we direct Dr. Rundle to get that information to us in the future. So this is, I would just, and just so to start thinking of those things that, how you interpret personalized learning. I mean, I know I've got some ideas too. So that is recognized, and I think it would be a great topic for us to pursue in the next year of getting that pendulum to swing back. But I know I'm taking all your.
No, it's not my thunder.
Okay, I'm not trying to take thunder, but I mean, feel free to comment on the things that you think are missing. I just don't want us to get into, to evaluating someone's
Yeah,
performance
no.
based on things that we didn't ask them.
I am just putting hypotheses out there.
Yeah.
I'm not, so I am curious about like, with the families, are there a way that we can, the high schoolers that might have gone through kind of the district before COVID and after, compared to maybe those who might be answering after COVID that might have a different expectation of how school, they have lived different parenting, schooling.
Yeah.
And it does look different. So I am just curious about if this is more information about those COVID parents that have never had kids in the district or where very early in elementary that we get more answers, or how does it look different, or high school is exactly the same and there's I don't know, just throwing hypotheses.
I think it's absolute, the N is 935 for our district of parents who answered. We can then break that down into the demographics. Are they elementary parents? And we can, to the extent possible, we can look at, race, ethnicity or things, because we might be able to glean some things out of that. There could be misses there, related to that.
Could we look at whether they've had a child go through the high cap program or receive like special ed services, like obviously without identifying anybody or anything like that, just whether any of their children.
At the student level, I'm gonna have to look at the family level
At
if
the
I can
family
get that.
Yeah, I just think that might be interesting because that really gets more at like, how well are we personalizing our services? Because this is all very interesting, and you're right that there seems to be kind of a gap here with what the families are experiencing, but it does seem like this is actually not measuring personalized learning. This is measuring how people feel about personalized learning, whether they feel like they're delivering or whether they feel like their kids are receiving it. And so what I think we'll want to talk about at this future study session and whatnot is like, how do we actually get a better sense of how well we're doing and how can we be tracking how well we're personalizing learning.
And I will say that with the first graph that you mentioned, that I will kind of look into it and bring some hypotheses that might be worth exploring, but just it is interesting. It doesn't mean that it is definitely important.
Mhm.
Why is there a difference and why the families feeling that way? But there's just hypotheses,
Yeah.
why.
Well, I think the age, in most, we separate out for students their levels, grade levels.
Yeah, we have 4th and 5th graders that we do our 6, 8, and then 9, 12, and so we can see the breakdowns of that in other reports. In this one, it's as a whole, I
Right.
think that's what you're saying, is
Right.
we're not breaking it apart in this one.
Right, I mean, because like, how does a family answer, this school is doing a good job of preparing my student for a successful future in 4th and 5th grade? I mean, it's gonna be a lot different answer, I would think, than.
But I'd wanna know from them, what's their perception, what we can learn is what's their perception of middle school? And are we preparing them for middle school or whatnot, or are we preparing for high school or, you know, and so I think there's some information that's really worth digging into.
Sorry. Just before anybody goes down a different trail, it does seem like maybe you almost wanna do like a core sampling where you kind of like take some representative families from each grade level and say, and you like really spend a lot of time with that family and you interview them and you go, what is your perception of any way in which your child has had their education individualized, right? And then you actually look at the records for that kid and like you kind of try and figure out like, oh, like this kid has actually, had like, been placed in a different math class, or they've gotten this, or they've gotten that, and like, do the parents not understand it? Do they not know it? Do they forget? Like, where is that gap occurring? Like, rather, you can't do that for every parent at a grade level, but you could just kind of randomly select, one parent out of 50 or something like that. Look at that. Sorry.
I've expressed this before a couple of times, but I just have concerns with even like the measuring tool that there's no way for parents to answer non-applicable, and then the default would be like a 3 to think that you're neutral, and then if our scores are in the 3s and we're like, why is that? Maybe the parents have 0 problems at all, but they just never had to like contact a teacher.
Because the 3s don't show up, these are all, you have to have all strongly agree or somewhat agree, it's the middle one doesn't show up on these.
Okay,
So that's a problem, because if they're taking the neutral, that doesn't mean that it's negative.
Right.
It's sometimes true.
yeah, and then I realize that it's not our tool, but I wish there was a way to
Yeah.
configure it so that we could have a neutral way to respond.
Yeah, I mean, so I echo, the same concerns, but I think we get some perspective for the qualitative data that's provided by a survey, but not the quantitative. So my thought there are a couple fold. I mean, one, so typically is, what do other districts do that might be measuring similar principles? Is there anything that we can pull from that without trying to reinvent the wheel? The second, in terms of, measuring ourselves, at least for me, I think about growth and monitoring. I think individual growth within cohort groups is good to see, are we providing personalized learning at the different levels? And then what do different pathways look like at the different grade levels? And how is that reflected in the courses and the curriculum?
Something kind of triggered my thought here, Director Lewis, is there's this I versus they gap analysis that EES does for our staff. So there's some specific questions around like, I am willing to change, to improve student learning or whatnot. And then they ask the same question of, I believe my colleagues are willing to change. And last year, our gaps were getting quite wide in some areas, and I'll brag on the middle school, but you'll see it again in their report next fall. They made some tremendous gains in closing that gap. And they did some very intentional work with their staff around, because the staff was saying, well, I don't even know really what happens in their classroom. So they did a lot of PLC work around that. But I'm wondering if EES can do a gap analysis for us around the same questions that we're asking staff and parents. And what is that? And students. So if there's 3 questions that are all about rigor, or I get challenging learning, or my kid gets challenging, or I challenge, I wonder if they can do a gap analysis. For some reason, whatever you were just saying just made me think of that.
I think, yeah, I think we have a lot to look at, and I think we can really benefit from having these discussions. Students, any comments, questions?
So yeah, I think it would be really good and useful to like go more into depth into this and like seeing the reasons behind the gaps for sure. And like, I also think like having like other ways to like be a focus group, right? Seeing it past the numbers, because a lot of times when people are filling out the surveys, it's just like, oh, this number looks nice, right? So I think that's pretty useful.
It's a 4 kind of day.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. Asha, anything?
No.
You're already gone.
Same thing that Ava said.
Okay, it seems like there's interest in having this further conversation thinking of doing it on all 5 fundamentals and, you know, maybe picking 1, 2, maybe 3 and diving deep into next year, but we'll have that conversation on the 20th. So come with ideas or certainly, you know, questions or whatever. So we can do that then. So I am looking for a motion to find our superintendent in compliance of fundamental 1.
So moved. Seconded?
All in favor, or any additional discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye, students
Aye.
and directors. Any opposed, any abstentions? So 2050. And moving on to commercial governance process monitoring, board policy 1800 OE6 budget financial planning, resolution 724 to approve the budget. This is a first reading.
Great. I'm gonna just go ahead and go directly to Director Sullivan, Director Adams, if there's anything, any updates you have, any changes, and then we can go right into discussion after that. The one change that, you know, we've caught, we catch mistakes all the time that we just somehow overlook. And we've tried to clean up some of those, but anything that we want to add from our finance team?
Let me just jump in and say, so we discussed this in depth at our study session, the same document. This is the public first reading, and then we will have a second reading as well as the public hearing on the budget at our June 20th meeting, where assuming everything, the intention is then to make a decision on whether or not to pass it, or if we're not ready to do that.
Which is earlier than we've done in the past, correct?
Last year we did June and,
I
this
just
is,
mean versus like the past.
yeah, it's always been August and, yeah.
I don't know if there's too much to add, if there's questions or discussion further on this, we're here to discuss. That said, we will be adding at the top, because it coincides with the table of contents, we'll do 24, 25. Budget resolution for 7:30 and discussions with Director Martinez.
Yeah, so I will go forward. So I did have some questions that I sent, right?
On the resolution
Or
or,
the resolution.
so because it's our first reading, I'm wondering if we should go through a little. Do we not usually do that? I just wanna,
If you would,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Just because I'm familiar with them, I think Christina's questions will really sort of draw out.
okay.
Resolution. Or we could maybe take it from.
I just wanna make sure that if it's a first reading, we're actually doing a first reading,
Right,
even
yeah.
though we saw it at the study session. That is also open to the public, but just not as,
Right.
okay, but, okay,
I can go through all my questions and it's slowly.
That's great.
okay.
And, the ones that, some of them, the first, I think it is on page 5. We were talking and we did talk this about in the, study session that it should be really clearly marked, every single number that it's, it will be affected by the bond. And if I'm correct, this is just saying if the bond is passed, this is the budget and it's stated underneath that if it's not passed, this is the, it will be reduced 10 million. So, I think that, it's not, it's only reflected during in the wording, but it will be clear to everybody to have that throughout the document, and I think that, document provided, it was, the changes were not there yet.
So are you saying the way that it's done now is, do you wanna see it in a different way?
She wants to see it throughout the document. So
Okay.
right now, only at the beginning, it says like, if there is no bond in 2024-25, capital fund budget estimate will be reduced by 10 million.
Okay,
But it doesn't say that everywhere, so it just should have kind of like an asterisk.
okay, and are you gonna go through and point to us the places?
I can do that, I did mention, I think that, for me, and I think that, I don't know if it's, useful for you, so for me, for example, and this is an example, so right now it's under capital only. But not during the numbers, so if I'm just glancing at the budget right now, really quick, it is not clear that, it will be affected, the 23, not the 13, it's the 23. the 9, the 23 million, 9 million, and 25%, those are the three numbers that will be affected, not the 13. So it's just for clarity purposes, to make sure that it is clear on where, if it's passed, these numbers will be affected.
Was
Still,
it 25%?
75%.
Yeah, it was 75%.
Would it help to do like in a different,
Yeah.
State.
And I did
fold, like
mention
folded
that.
or another color or something, like those
You
numbers?
want just an asterisk by the amount throughout the document that will refer back to,
Talking about maybe.
just a little.
Double asterisk.
Okay.
So consistent on throughout the document on every single one having a double asterisk and.
Okay.
So on this topic about the capital fund, just so I'm clear, is it your view that including bond revenue, even though it looks like under section 2.5 of the accounting manual, that bond anticipation notes should not be included? And then there's the revenue matching principle under section 2.6 where you can't authorize expenditures in excess of anticipated revenue. Could you provide some background of why this accords with section 2 of the accounting manual?
We're not issuing bond anticipation notes.
Understood, this is even further removed and further upstream. So my question phrased otherwise. The principles you can, under at least my understanding, tell me if this is incorrect, of section 2.6, is we can authorize expenditures that exceed revenues for a particular fund. So then if we can't recognize the revenues, then we can't authorize the expenditures. I mean, can we recognize the revenues? Like, I mean, as far as I can tell, we can't. I mean, if we can't recognize bond anticipation notes, then it seems something that's even further remote and upstream.
Right, but we're not issuing bond anticipation notes.
Totally understand that. How are we
That's what the
authorizing,
regulation means.
how are we authorizing expenditures then that exceed revenue?
I think you're authorizing a budget,
It's
not the actual expenditures themselves.
We're authorizing, you would be authorizing anticipation of the approval of a bond, a passage of bond, hence expenditures of those revenues upon passage. It's what the entire budget document would be across the board, anticipation of expenditures.
But there's certain anticipated revenues that you cannot recognize. There's certain that you can't. I mean, all revenues to some extent is anticipated, right? We haven't realized it as of the date that we are approving the budget. The question is, how remote of a possibility is that anticipation for revenue recognition rules, right?
So, yeah, so I,
Correct.
and
In my understanding, something like bond is a much more remote, it's not material, it's not, I mean, there isn't an assurance that it's going to be recognized.
so and I got back to you, but it was later in the day and you may not have seen it. We've checked with OSBI, we've checked with the ESD. I provided you last week examples that we've done this in the past.
Did we those I looked and it looked like in 2014, we did it.
In,
Our cap tech beginning balance was 5 million going into the year
in 2013,
in 2013. And then there was 5 million in anticipated revenues from the levy. So that was 10 million. And we authorized 7.8 million in appropriations. There was no prospective bond proceeds that were included in the appropriations prior to the approval of the bond.
it looks, I mean, I can't. Based on what we were collecting at that time, it seems like it was more than that,
It was
but
more than reflected, we had a balance.
could have been. I mean, it's hard to know exactly where those are. I think at the end of the day, and this is what I've kind of explained to you, this is your budget. We can't move forward without your approval. And if you as a board are not comfortable with this practice, which we have done the research to say that this is not out of bounds, that this is something that districts do. If that's not something that you're comfortable with the board, we can pull that back out. The ramifications are because we're talking about a potential bond, which would be not till April, certified in May. We probably, by the time it's a 60 to 90 day, I think when Director Martinez, you would ask, how long does it take? About a 60 to 90 day process. It would mean that we really wouldn't be able to do anything next year. It would all have to wait until September 1, 2025 to get going on things.
Right, and I mean, this is all kind of repeating a conversation that we had at our study session, but I don't have any problem with this, which seems to be pretty standard, like school district accounting practice, but as in particular, like, we're not gonna spend any money that we don't yet have. Like, what we have to plan, or that hasn't been approved yet. But we have to plan as, you know, if we think there's a pretty decent likelihood that we're going to do this, it's the only fiscally responsible thing to do is to plan for how we would use that money, and that's part of this, that's part of what we're doing here, you know, so I think put lots and lots of asterisks on it, or italicize it, or put it in, you know, Comic Sans, bold, green, you know, whatever, to make clear this would be affected by the decision about whether or not we do a bond, and then everyone knows what we're doing, we're not trying to put, you know, thing over on anyone.
And if there was anything that happened to us and we all weren't here, you would still have to approve the expenditures, because it would be, if the bond didn't pass and someone was in our seats wanting to spend that money, they could not, because it would drive fund balance below where it would be anyway. So you do have other bumpers, as I mentioned before.
Okay, so and it is with the, I can go through and there's maybe something, some way that we might, kind of, okay, so that page 6, I think it is the same, remember, and we did mention, so let me, so I think that, it goes, the most important to me, and it's related to the bond, is, if that's okay, that I go to the resolution, is that the resolution does not have anything, related to the bond in terms of wording. So, in order to have that capital fund on 23 million, we do need to make sure that we have, some wording that it says precisely, that if, it's only if the bond is passed, we're not borrowing money, we're not having, money in advance, it's only with that provision, and if not, the budget goes to 13 million, and I think that's the most important portion that needs to happen.
And we can make where we could do that, Director Martinez, is we could look at the whereas and see if there's an existing one that we put, and then down below, be it further resolved, where we mention something in there, so that there's a balance there on that. And, you know, I don't know what the best place is offhand, but we could definitely look at that.
I think that's a good suggestion. I mean, I still like the public optics of it, of presupposing long passive reports and presenting to the board. That's fair. But if other board members, I think, at a minimum, we should change the language in the resolution, which would be pretty easy to put in upon not only certification, but sale of the bond, none of those proceeds, you know, are restricted, or however it wants to be set. I mean, I do think that would be the place to do it, would be in the resolution.
I think, Meg, the resolution has to have it, period, to make it clear that we are sure about, and, yes.
Yeah, I just want to hear from everyone on that. I mean, I think it's a great suggestion. It's perfectly appropriate, and assuming it's within the bounds of the law and all that, which I can't imagine it wouldn't be. I think it's great to point that out. So thank you.
I think it gives some extra clarity, and if it makes people more comfortable with it, I think that.
But I'm kind of like, yeah, not within the law, I don't think that we should put this one in the.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just kind of, I can't imagine it. We can't say what we want to say in that respect, but yeah, I mean, if there's some.
Yeah, it's a
Minor.
yeah.
Thing, yeah.
I'll run by external legal counsel.
Great.
So, and just, I did,
I mean, because they run all these by legal. So that's what I mean. It's just as long as it's, yeah.
and there's, and I think that the others, and I could send you kind of my comments, I think that I just asked questions related to numbers and see, so I can take a look, but, I think that the other one that we did mention the last time, related to, page 18, the Mercer Island property tax rate. How historical current levy works, but it has to be really clear, pre and post McCleary. So I just suggested some wording that it is like, adding the McCleary et al.
Yeah.
State of Washington Supreme Court number and the number that, so everybody will be able to find that information if needed and see what is the difference, pre and post.
Yeah.
And, I think besides that.
So this is based on our conversation about adding a note.
Yeah,
explaining that. Okay.
yes, so it's not in that.
Because there's the,
There's it.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much it's.
one other thing you mentioned, I think is worth saying is a recommendation to. Maybe you said it and I just missed it, the resolution itself, titling it the same on the resolution. As we've written it in there in the table of contents, so we will change the title so that it reflects it in the both ways.
Tell me what it, tell me the
So
difference.
to have a title on the resolution, so if you see at the resolution, by itself alone, it says, resolution number.
730.
730, and that's it, and you don't know what it is about.
Yeah.
So adding a title saying, it is a resolution of a budget, passing a budget of 2024 to 2025 budget. Correct.
In the table of contents, it says resolution 730 talks about budget there.
Oh,
That's what I- yeah.
budget resolution.
So we want.
Okay,
the same
I just,
thing.
yeah, I just,
So, yes, that it says the same as the table of content, that it says 2024, 25 budget resolution. So it's consistent, but also for us in the future, if we want to go back into resolutions, we know what we're looking for and we'll be wait.
any opinion on that?
I just want to say that much I appreciate Christina's very close read of this both these documents, because, you know, she really highlights for me, just like, even though we're, you know, as transparent and, as communicative as we can be, like, just like tiny tweaks that really make it so that it's easy for the public to find this document, should they, you know, want to find it themselves for some reason, or, you know, just really like going through and making sure that the numbers make sense to the lay reader, and I really appreciate her, taking that extra time and effort to go through that document. And, I feel like, especially with the additions and some of the issues that Director Bose has brought up, I feel really confident that people understand that the budget document is just that, it's like a household budget, like, this is what I'm hoping to bring in, and if we, you know, get fired and I don't, then I just shrink my budget. Appropriately, and I personally would, applaud sort of the nimbleness that this current, that the budget as proposed brings into the process, where we can immediately start spending money if a bond does pass. And if a bond doesn't pass, we just don't have the money to spend. I was a little bit taken aback by the 60 to 90 day sort of delay and getting things started if we don't pass this, if we don't have the bond accounted for in the budget. And now I just feel like I'm in the weeds on fucking numbers too, so I'll stop. But my concern, I applaud the nimbleness this document reflects. Even though, as we all know, any bond that we might propose for that the voters from Charlotte might pass is completely hypothetical. I think that it's useful for us to show some nimbleness of thinking to be prepared for that instance.
I was actually, I thank you for saying something, because I was actually sitting over here thinking the same thing, because I say this with tremendous respect, like, that nitpicking is not my strength, and it's other people. So I like that, I mean, bringing your strengths to the table, and you're not being a pain. You're pointing out really important things that we need to take another look at, that accountants sit around and do all day long, which is why I hated what I did in college. So it's so tremendously important that we rely on each other's strengths, to do this. So thank you. I was thinking the very same thing. So, as many times as we look at it, we're gonna notice something new. And for the community to know that, the intention is always transparency, and our job is to ask the questions, and we're not gonna notice everything. And so these are complex documents. And so, we make every attempt to notice everything, but it's huge, right? I mean, I think the expectation that it's gonna be 100% perfect, that's why you can amend budgets and modify them. But, the intention is that we are all looking at it closely, and that, we're gonna do everything we can to make it as accurate and forecasting accurately as possible. So please continue. Next item.
I think that.
Do you what-
You're gonna name.
Do you wanna just, well, why don't you, did you say there were numbers that you had?
So I think in terms of kind of that I noticed that,
She's gonna put them with already.
No, I know, but I just think, this is our public
For
meeting. and-
example, it's totally fine, like I will say, for example, in page 8, there's a typo, so instead of, it should be 1.4 instead of 14%, 14.7% to be, yeah, that's the number. So if you go a page up, page 7, you can see where the number comes from.
The supply and material,
So I am sorry, I have to go to, it is,
the benefits.
the benefits, yes, sorry, so sorry, oh, yes, the benefit number 4,000, where it says 14.7, it should be 1.7. No, sorry, 1.47, yeah. So, and then I think on page 816, it was also some, at the bottom of the page, it says CTECR and it says $00, and those are correct now. We went through, so that's, it shouldn't be 00, it should be the same $5 to $45. So, and I think that those were kind of the main ones, but I look at the numbers, so that's what I do, and we went through to make sure that I don't think I'm missing any.
That's gonna put you on staff for next.
So I think that it is because I don't work every day, I can know that.
No, the rest of the
So, I think those are the ones, but I do look at every number, so, and make math and.
If I may be private, I appreciate what she was doing. We look at it so often, sometimes we can't see everything, so I greatly appreciate it. But that said, she's been volunteered for the year-end document.
Unpaid internship opportunities at the district.
Great. Maggie Ty, any questions or comments?
No, everything's been addressed.
Jody? No, that's been addressed. Sorry, I'm being. Got it, that's right. Dan, anything?
Nothing further.
And, students?
I thought it was really clear to read, so I thought that was great. I looked through it this past week. Obviously, Ava and I weren't at the study session, but I enjoyed reading it.
Did you really?
Actually, kind of.
I think that the layout makes it so it's digestible. I mean, thank you. You got, I mean, is it what we read for fun? You know, maybe some people, but it's very digestible, which I think is the important part. Not necessarily fun, but, anyways. Okay, so we will put this on the June 20th agenda for, second reading, and, I'm sure any changes will be redlined or whatever, and then, we'll see the clean copy and
Get that to you as soon as we can, hopefully early next week.
great, okay. Okay. Let's. Mm-hmm. 10-minute recess, or I'm skipping B right now.
We could do, I think we can do C, because we made the updates and the changes, that you had all discussed, especially around adding that second, position, but that's up to you.
10-minute recess or go on to C?
Just wanted to see.
So we're at 3C, Board Policy 1800 OE7, Communication and Support to the Board, proposed revisions to Board Policy 1005, Board Officer and Board Member Duties. Director Lee.
I'm gonna throw it back to Superintendent Randall.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. If you just kind of take a look, we have the clean version or the purple line version, I guess, in this case. We've added a section, there for selection of legislative representative, we removed it from section 1 and created a section 2. The way in which that you would select your second representative, or excuse me, the representatives would be the same as the December with a call for nominations. But the big change then is that you would have 2 legislative reps elected in June, serving on alternate years, so each one would serve a 2-year term. The one caveat is to get this going, Director Lee, you would continue serving until next June, and so it wouldn't be the full 2 years, because you were nominated and elected in December, but it would really start next year. Should someone become a different role on the board, then at that point, we wrote the language open enough that you didn't have to rush and make it the next board meeting, but in an upcoming board meeting, you'd select someone to replace them. So that was the main gist of what we were trying to capture. Hopefully, the language is what you were looking for, and I think Director Lee and I would be happy to take questions.
I think it will be beneficial maybe for the public. Why are we? What is why is it happening?
Yeah, so, why is this happening? So I talked about this a little bit in our last board meeting, but, the reason to go bring to 2 legislative reps, I think is mainly to have a sort of, mentor mentee, legislative rep role, the Asha and Ava role, as we like to call it here on the board. Where, someone is being brought up to speed and someone has already established themselves in that role and established some legislative connections, and has an idea really of what's going on, to be frank. So that's the idea between having 2 and having the constant overlap of one more experienced, one lesser experienced legislative rep. And the reason for switching it into a June selection versus the January or December section, January for some, December selection of board officers is that personally, as a new board officer coming into the legislative rep role in January, I found it extremely hard to get up to speed and to gain a good, strong understanding of the legislative rep role and what our priorities were as a board. And the session was already well underway when I came on board. And I think that it makes more sense to start this as a summer role. The summertime is a time to establish relationships, to speak to our locally elected officials who happily live on Mercer Island. And to really sort of get comfortable in the role and make connections with other legislative reps. And really get that networking and meetings underway. So I realize that it's off cycle then for the rest of the board, but I think that it's doable and that, you know, we can be flexible with, if someone changes roles, we can just change roles. Not so.
And the way that this got revised after our last discussion of it makes it even more flexible, because
Yeah.
it's not saying that we have to elect a second rep if one person kind of peels off to do something else, that we may elect a second rep. Like, obviously, it's at the board's discretion, right? So, yeah, makes a lot of sense.
And this is also something that other districts
That other
do
districts
for the
do,
organization.
They have 2 reps, or they have like sort of a team approach, but yeah, it's various approaches, but this is not something I'm inventing out of the cloth. This is sort of best practices, I think.
If you think that, like, there's a reason why lobbyists stay the same, you know, year after decade, like, because they have those connections, they've built those relationships, right? And so the way we have been doing it in the past is like the opposite of having long-term lobbyists by
Right.
swapping out once a year, like, it actually kind of weakened our ability to be effective.
And I think that, like, I mean, just, you know, personally, I find that, like, I really relied on the mentorship and the, you know, like, time that the previous legislative reps were able to give me. And maybe had to, like, but they're both busy right now, so like, you know, I leaned hard on Director Golowitz asking, you know, having him walking through sort of like what he was doing before, because he had, you know, he was able to sort of like share that knowledge with me, but it's not really his role now as vice president, so I really wanted to like be respectful of other people's board goals and not have them be sort of like the, you know, knowledge dump ledger when they're not. That's appreciated.
And I think they don't have to.
Oh, I have a question. Is that if you walk into that role for 2 years, does that mean you can't also be board president or board vice president? if you're walking into the lecture.
I think that's what the flexibility is in there for, so that someone who's like, if, I mean, you could probably be vice president, maybe that's something to think about, board president probably takes up a lot of time, I'm guessing.
That would be my opinion.
Yeah, but, yeah, so there's more flexibility and sort of fungibility between the board members.
Yeah, I think it's like super helpful having this, like, I can imagine just like coming here without option, so like.
If you do approve it, you had discussed that you could take action as soon as your next board meeting on June 20th. To select that person, that's also up to you as a board, but that was put in there to, that was part of the time.
I feel like that makes sense, because, I mean, beginners, you need to go on, right, we'll select in June, but not this year, because we can't get ourselves together, but. Nice, so let's select in June, let's do it at the June 20th board meeting, that's okay with everyone.
Yeah.
If there's no changes or further thoughts on this language.
And this is just for discussion, right?
Tonight.
We're just voting it.
Yep.
Okay. We're voting on it.
But
We're voting on it tonight.
unless there's a reason.
I was looking for.
Any other discussion, questions? Looking for motion to approve board policy 1809, proposed revision to board policy 1005.
So move.
Seconded.
All in favor, students and board?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? 2050. Why don't we take 5 and we'll come back at. Oh, are we, and yeah, let's take 5, we'll come back at 6. Moving on to. Losing my agenda. Moving on to. Number 4, recognition and public input, right?
Yep,
No.
or do you, no. we're
No,
gonna do-
sorry, we're gonna go
3B.
back to 3B, Board Policy 1250, Students on Governing Boards, Student Representatives Report. Yep.
You're gonna get an audience.
Perfect. Okay, this can start us off.
Yes, also it gives me emails. Okay, yeah, so as we all know, the end of the school year is approaching. And students are definitely having a hard time paying attention in class, like getting giddy for summer, but we're pushing through. And we just had our last SSA meeting of the year yesterday afternoon. And the SSA was really proud of the work that they did in like the shift, like in the shift into like having more project-based meetings. And some of their highlights were like getting to be able to have like connections with students from different schools. And also being able to like reach out to admin and like feeling like they made a difference in their schools. And yeah, so it was really sad seeing some members shut them off, but yeah, it was fun to reflect on the past year.
Okay, so elementary students, they're definitely really excited for end of year. They're having lots of events. North Legit had their spring musical and Island Park had their school-wide talent show on May 2nd. Our Find Out programs have been wrapping up and they've all had various end of year concerts. The band had a huge band program-wide event called Band Bash with food, games, and awards. Student council and safety patrols have been having their end of year parties. A lot of times they go to like Family Fun Center, things like that. Also, if you guys remember, all the individual classrooms have their parties. So they go to parks and have food and stuff. And there also has been some learning happening in the classroom. Sadly, the 5th graders had their human growth and development unit, which was a big deal. And the 5th graders also had their field day. Another exciting thing is that Lake Ridge Elementary, Northwood Elementary, and Mercer Island High School have been recognized by the King County Green Schools Program for sustaining various levels of green practices during the school year. And it's great to see that our students are really focusing on how they sort the trash and things like that. They talked about iReady at our recent SSA meeting, and so they were able to give feedback and share their opinions on the new iReady curriculum and assessments.
And here we have pictures, that's like the field trip to the Woodland Park Zoo. And yeah, they have a lot of fun events going on. And then, okay, for the middle school, the 8th grade web program recently did a linkage and they went to Lake Ridge to do outreach and really connect with the incoming 5th graders. And the middle school is also having a spirit week with spirit days such as White Lie, America Day, and Maroon Out. And as we all know, IMS, the school day was canceled due to the power outage. And then during Gator time, middle schoolers are doing window decorating, so a lot of fun activities to relax at the end of the year. And the middle school yearbooks have also been released. And then also yesterday night at the orchestra concert, a 6th grader named Emerald played a traditional Chinese instrument at the orchestra concert, and that was really cool for them to see. And also the orchestra partnered with a composer to create their own songs, and they performed those last night, and it was really fun to listen to.
The high schools and high spirits as we approach graduation, at least for the seniors who don't have finals. Yesterday was summer kickoff. There was food trucks, snow cones, jewelry shops, workshops, yearbook handouts, tournaments. There was a lot. I think our marketing team did a really great job with that, and our yearbook team also helped sponsor by lending their funds. Our yearbook is Mean Girls / Burn Book theme, which is really fun, kind of in theme with the pop culture happening. The senior issue was also handed out this past week, which was inspired by the New York Times games. And so the map had like beats and stuff. It was cute. Yesterday, our independent living class had alumni come in and share advice to seniors as they prepare to leave the island. We also had Ms. Brittenall share some things too. This past weekend, prom was hosted at the Sanctuary in Seattle. The space was beautiful, and our ASB team did a really great job. It was went off without pitch. There's meetings rule. On Tuesday, there was signing day for all of our future college athletes. There was 23 athletes of various collegiate levels in sports. In May, we had a lot of big wins. Our girls lax, boys lax, and girls tennis all won their state championships. Our girls and boys golf teams and our boys tennis team also competed in state. Our track team had multiple event wins, including Owen Powell in the 1600 and the 800. Sophia Rodriguez, Eloise Newman, and Lydia Khan all won various events. Also in May, the biotech class went to UW on a field trip and did labs. And it was a great way for them to interact with some items that we aren't able to have at the high school. There was also state testing, the past couple weeks for sophomores and juniors, and it went really smoothly, and the admin team did a great job. DI went to globals in Kansas City, and Mr. Island teams came home with several wins. And as we wrap up the year, Ava and I wanted to say thank you for all your continued interest in all the school activities and those listening to our reports.
Yes, and as you all know, we have a new member in the audience, so we did a lot of application, or our applicants undergo an interview process and application. And in the end, we selected Lucy to be our next junior board rep. And she's super sweet, and I'm really excited to get to know her more. And yeah, we're really excited to work with her, and I know she's excited to work with us. Do you want her to like come up and speak?
Sure. More?
I was just say, like, I'm super honored to be selected for this position, and I'm super excited to work with all of you and like learn more about the board and everything.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so we had a number of applicants and, as you can imagine, anytime people sit on interview panels, whether or not it's for scholarships or, awards, and you start reading the resumes, it's incredibly impressive. And I think, Lucy, you're going to bring a lot of great perspective, both in terms of the previous experiences you've had, but I know some of the hopes and dreams you have in the last 2 years in high school. So it won't be long till you're here. You'll be back in September. That's when we'll do the official swearing in at the first meeting in September. We already have a date on the calendar where Ava, Lucy, and I will meet to do transition. And then we met yesterday with our student advisors and started planning out the superintendent student advisory focus for next year too. So we're underway already, but welcome to this team.
Thank you so much.
All right. So with that, let's start with some of our recognitions. Why don't we bring in Destination Imagination? And we thought for pictures tonight, there's gonna be so many, they're just gonna come in behind you, and then we'll just do pictures after. Come on in.
Just lining up in front of the chairs.
Oh, it's me.
So welcome in our Destination Imagination students. As I've shared in the past, this is something that I have a unique tie to, because when I was in elementary school, I had the opportunity to participate, and the work for this begins really in August with Mr. Baxter, who starts coordinating and working with Destination Imagination. We really, in September, start pulling our volunteers. And before I recognize the students, I do want to say thank you to all of our parent volunteers. It requires an incredible amount of time, all of the practices, especially as you approach competition time. It's daily, sometimes it's twice on the weekends. And so parents, for especially those of you who are coaches or who chaperone to the state tournament, chaperone to Kansas City, this can't happen without you. So thank you very much. And then also to our faculty reps, we have Kirsten Burke, who I think is maybe here tonight. Are you here, Kirsten?
I don't think Kirsten is.
Okay, but David Baxter, who is here, and Julie Langley, they continue to be the backbone of this, doing all of the coordination. So thank you to the two of them. And now, some accolades from some amazing students here. So our Destination Imagination teams, just some highlights. For the first time ever, all 23 of the teams advanced from our regional competition to the state tournament. And so they continue to really set a high mark and a benchmark in and around the region as probably the strongest team, certainly in our state or group of teams in our state, and arguably in the country and even at the global level. Examples of that as at the state tournament, this group of individuals, they earned 10 first place awards, six second place awards, and 3 third place awards. Not to mention the 6 special awards, including Renaissance Awards and the Da Vinci Award, which are given by judges who recognize something that a team has done above and beyond, either in creativity, performance, how they've executed there. We then had teams head off to globals in Kansas City. 650 teams from around the world all competed. Our heroic villains won 2nd place for the Senior High Scientific Challenge. That was our top award winning team, but we had 3 teams who just missed the podium. In 4th place, our Drama Dragons, the Crazed Monkeys, the Diet Mountain Dew, and was it the Mean Green Beans? Was that another one that that I know made it? So with that, I do want to turn it over to you, Mr. Baxter, just to talk a little bit more about this. But I mean, this is amazing what we continue to do.
I really feel lucky to be able to work with these students and have the support of Dr. Rundle and keep this program thriving, actually. And as Dr. Rundle said, so much of this is due to our parent volunteers. We have 27 parent volunteers who help run teams. I'm just gonna say some of the names here. Actually, I'm gonna read them all. Adrian Peterson, Aisha Harper, Claudia Clemente, Darren Gold, Jane Fortson, Lynn Brown, Maria Swenson, Mei Ying, Melinda Reamer, Michael Cho, Nate Dudley, Nilam Sabu, Pei Guo, Pooja Sachin, Quinn Chun Ren, Robin Lee, Sanal Patil, Murali Subramanian, Susan Kim, Swati Hasbi, Suzanne Czar, Tiffin Goodman, and Tom Soprano. Without those people, our program would be minuscule, but because of them, we are doing so well. Thank you, parent leaders.
Let's hear.
First, I would like to say thank you to our school board and to our school administration who continues to support this. They provide us opportunities to meet in places. And I feel like this is a whole district supported program, and we are where we are because of year after year support. And finally, I'm so glad that people from 4th grade on up, representing all of our elementary schools, the middle school, the high school, participate in this program. It's great to have something that is cross-cutting, serving the entire community. I feel really lucky that we get support from everybody.
So I mean, there's lots of you here, but would love to hear from our high school teams. Some of you have been doing this since you were in elementary school, but just some words from you on the experience, what DI has meant to you. Especially I know some of you are seniors and this is coming down the home stretch. And you don't have to talk, but if you would like to.
Yeah, I can speak for my team. I'm Lexi. I'm a part of the heroic villains this year. And I think for me, DI has meant a lot in both my school and like social life. Being able to meet and work with these wonderful people has really been so special. I remember, I think we started as like a team in around 4th grade and we barely knew each other. We were really timid. We also did argue a lot, I have to say. But definitely working through the COVID stages of our teamwork and getting now and getting what we accomplished this year, it has been a very dramatic change. And I think getting to know like how to use the creativity that we learned through DI and using the teamwork and leadership skills definitely has benefited me in other parts of my life other than just school.
Yeah, and I'm Sophia. I'm a junior here at the high school and I'm a member of the team.
Diet Mountain Dew, and this past year, I want to say, has been my 8th year doing DI. I've been doing it since I was a 4th grader, and I've just been so grateful for the experience as a whole for so many different reasons. First and foremost, as Lexi said, I think I've met and made some of my best friends through DI. It's just such a fun process for me to be able to be creative and solve these challenges with other students who want to pursue this as well. And I personally just love to make art and be creative and build things with my hands. And it's been such a cool opportunity to pursue my imagination and bring ideas to life in that respect as well. And one other final thing I'd mention is my team has been doing the service learning challenge for the past few years. So a component of our challenge is to create a service project that's supporting our community in some way. And that's just made DI even more meaningful of an experience for me, because over the past few years, me and my team have been able to create the Maroon Project, which is a project that has been working to support menstrual equity in Washington. We've collected thousands of period products. Over the past year, we've met with Washington State senators and representatives multiple times, and we've just been working with them to amend Washington State legislature. And that's been a really interesting and meaningful process as well that I don't think I would have been exposed to without DI. So as I said in the beginning, I am so grateful for DI as a program and all the amazing people who do it.
So students and leaders, we're gonna have you go behind the board over here so we can get a picture of you. So if you'll just walk straight behind Ava and Asha and come right around, and coaches and,
Yeah.
yep.
I don't want them to share.
Yes.
And scoosh together, all the teams, go ahead and squish together.
There's a couple of taller students that can stand behind the boys here.
Good. Go ahead and get.
Awesome.
And if. Good. Everybody. Nice.
All right, eyes on me to start, eyes on me. Okay. 3, 2, 1, eyes on me, 3, 2, 1, okay. Any
Parents, come on up.
Thank you.
Awesome, congratulations.
I was remiss in mentioning 2 other staff members that help out. Sophia's mother, Elizabeth Loisel, who is absolutely fantastic, and Jamie Cook from the high school, 2 other awesome staff members who really help us support our team. So my appreciation for them as well. Thank you so much, board. Appreciate that.
A lot of coordination, we have a lot to recognize tonight. So we're gonna have girls lacrosse coming in next.
Line up, we're along here. There you go.
So, we have with us, state champions, 2 of the last 3 years. Our girls lacrosse team have been state champions. They won a nail biter against, Seattle Prep 12-11 on May 17th, which earned them, the state title. Girls lacrosse is a little different than some of the others because they're competing against, different teams from all over the state, not just 3A, but others as well. We had Erica Kierstead and Camilla Manfredo. They were named players of the game. Erica had half of the team's 12 goals in the championship game. And Camilla had 9 draw controls coming off, which certainly set the tone, maintained possession for the team. They worked all year long, built a phenomenal team culture. All of you are here tonight, and we hope you're so proud. So let me have the captains maybe speak first, talk a little bit about your season, and then we'll have each of you introduce yourselves, your year, and you know, just your name or whatnot. If you have any parents here, you can recognize them as well. So captains.
Hi, I'm Taylor Slombrowski. I'm one of the captains. This year was super fun, especially because we had 11 new players. So like we got all involved with each other first week, get to know each other, and honestly finished the season to a great and state championship. So it was really fun celebrating and just cheering on.
Yeah, it was super fun. We did not really expect the outcome that we got. I know last year was a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, it was just super exciting to have a new team and have a state championship again.
Yeah, I think again, like coming off of last year and then not really knowing what our team would be like this year was really interesting to kind of build like a new team culture. And especially to make sure that all the new players, we had 2 freshmen this year, which is kind of unheard of. Making sure that they felt like in with the team and making sure that everyone on the team from the swingers to like the most experienced players felt like they were a part of our team and, you know, could make an impact. And so, yeah, it was really fun that was how our season ended and a way that I'm happy to go out with.
Yeah. I think you lost, was it 11 seniors last year,
Yeah.
graduated off, and so to come back and, I know it was disappointing at the end of last year, but to come back this year, so much to be proud of. So, you want to introduce yourselves
I'm Sophia Kincaid.
and your year?
Oh, I'm a sophomore. I'm Caroline Shelton and I'm a junior. I'm Sadie Kim, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Amelie Schmidt, I'm a senior. I'm Lily Leffler, I'm a junior. I'm Taylor Slombrowski, I'm a senior.
I'm Lily Carr, I'm a freshman. I'm Miller Faustine and I'm a sophomore. I'm Erica Kierstead and I'm a senior. I'm Lucy Tiscornia and I'm a sophomore. I'm Ava Williamson, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Camille Manfredo, I'm a freshman.
I'm Griffin Frank, I'm a senior.
I'm Nadia Spinsky and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Sophia Loisel and I'm a junior.
I'm Maya Lawrence and I'm a senior.
I'm Rose Hall and I'm a junior. I'm Shannon Rogan and I'm a junior.
Awesome, congratulations. Is coach, do we have coaches back? I didn't even see our coaches. Come on through. Why didn't you talk about the season and,
No,
what?
I mean, you said it all. We had such a great spring and I think, you know, staying within the vein of the team. As coaches, you know, we knew that we would be competitive, but it was just so amazing to see the growth from week 1, you know, to a couple of weeks ago. While there were some stellar performances, certainly in the state championship game, it's really important to note just how big of a role everybody played in winning a state championship this year. It was awesome. It was really fun for us to coach this spring, given how new everybody was. So we're super proud of the girls and you know, just felt the love from our entire community. We've got a great booster crew. Our youth program was all there in support. The school has been great. The boys program has been super supportive. So it was a really great spring start to finish.
Congratulations. Same thing, we'll have you go around the backside of the board.
Close.
Oh my God.
Savannah.
We said it, I.
Everyone on me? On me, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Okay.
Parents. All right, congratulations. Big night, huh? I thought it was good.
Yeah. I know. I couldn't see that. I will. All right, teach. Go on in.
Line enough from the board perspective.
Coming in now is a group of individuals somewhere along the way during the school year. I received this email about this group that I had to come see and meet, and I went to Mr. Benchabengo's classroom, and this was right after they had returned from a trip to do some really important work in Kenya. And this is the Petrie group, Philanthropy, Education, Teaching, Research, and Involvement. And I'm going to really let them talk about what they do, but they were also recognized by WASA, the Washington Association of School Administrators, for an award this year. And I think what they embody is how you can take a lot of our strengths, our privileges, our knowledge, our skills, our dispositions, and make an impact, not just locally, but globally. And I got to see this amazing presentation and catch the tail end of it. And I definitely want to call out the two leaders for this. Kimberly Frank, who I know is back there holding the phone and taking pictures here, but also a former staff member of the Mercer Island School District, a fellow educator, Mary Margaret Welch. And so I'll turn it over to you, Mary Margaret.
Thank you. So if you want to go to the next slide and we'll just share, we thought pictures would be really helpful. So Petrie is sponsored by a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit, and we have a three-part mission. But first of all is to empower educators. So as a longtime science educator and education leader, it's important for us to improve STEM teaching and learning. What we had learned was that many kids didn't have advantages in Kenya because they were left behind out of STEM. And we also leveraged technology. So when we went, Kimberly was able to secure 40 Macintosh computers. We packed them in our little carry-on luggages and we carried them with us. They don't have access, and the digital divide is getting wider and wider, and it's really urgent for us to help them close that digital divide. And we provide scholarships, and that's what this group of young women do, is that they help to earn funds for scholarships. Okay, next slide. So here we are in Mercer Island, but we're all the way out the other side of the world in a community called Tayeta, Kenya, which is between Mombasa and Nairobi and close to the Tanzania border. Thank you. And this is our team. We have 27 Mercer Island high school young women who come together. This is our picture on the left of our senior celebration, and we have new members coming in and several of our senior members who are leaving. And so I'll have them introduce themselves in just a minute. So we're only a subset tonight of our organization. So this is our, Maddie, why don't you start? Just introduce the slide.
Okay, so this is a picture we took when we were in Kenya, and this was on our field day where we met all of our 116 scholars for the first time and kind of got to like meet them in person and build connections with them on the first day we were there.
So yeah, Savannah and I, had the opportunity to lead scholarships this past year, and we really focused on Zoom calls, which kind of allowed us to build more friendships rather than just like a donor recipient kind of relationship with all of the girls and the few boys that we sponsor. It was awesome to be able to set up with Mary Margaret, a lot of Mary Margaret's help, these Zoom calls in the morning before school, before they were getting ready for bed. Just to have like a 45-minute conversation face to face in breakout rooms with our specific pen pals were great.
So Josie?
Yeah. So this is just one of our many fundraisers that we did, and these are us selling some baskets that the moms in Kenya made for us to thank us for sending their children to school, which is, you can see that they're really beautiful and they're really good quality, and they are super just fun to sell and fun to educate people about. So yeah, this is just one of our many fundraisers. We do other ones based on the season, just spread awareness and try to sell different fundraisers, yeah.
You want to talk about period poverty?
Oh, yeah. You want me to?
Yes.
Okay, so we just did a recent period poverty fundraiser in the month of March to celebrate Women's History Month, and basically what that fundraiser was is that we were just spreading awareness on the cause and how there's that issue is really present in Kenya, and we really wanted to spread awareness on the issue and how girls often can't go to school due to menstruation. So we wanted to raise money so they can make their own reusable sanitary pads, and it was a really successful fundraiser.
And when you're in Kenya, you did what?
We did a period pad workshop. We joined with some of our scholars that were girls, and we worked together to make reusable sanitary pads, and we taught them, we brought them a bunch of different supplies like sewing machines, and now they can make them themselves and use it.
Katie, can I talk about the science side?
Sure. I've never actually been the STEM VP. We have at least one of those at all times. This year we had two. Emily Fain, who's also a senior, has been our STEM VP for 2 years now, and she's just absolutely killed it. Gotta give credit where it's due. She's just totally kind of rewritten the role and really put a name to STEM. She's done a great job with getting us guest speakers at our morning meetings, as well as getting the Kenyan students involved in a STEM, the extravaganza. So when we were in Kenya, we were there this past February. Emily and Griffin, you guys ran a lab, and it was on elephant DNA and how elephant's DNA helps them fight off cancer or kind of fend it off. And kind of how what we can learn from that, as well as what the Kenyan students can learn from that, and kind of how they can adjust their mindsets on this big kind of scary animal in their eyes that's kind of a pest and dangerous, but also how through STEM they can appreciate the species.
So thanks for letting us share, but I'd like the girls to be able to introduce themselves real quick and share their roles in the organization. Sophia.
I'm Sophia Kincaid, and next year I'll be VP of fundraising. I'm Savannah Roussel, and I work with scholarships. I'm Maddie Mullins. I'm VP of fundraising right now, and I will be co-president next year. I'm Mara Colby, and I'm VP of fundraising.
I'm Maria Single, and I was co-secretary this year, and next year I'll be part of the STEM team.
I'm Josie Beebe. I was VP of fundraising last year. Next year I'll be co-president.
My name is Katie Friedman. I'm a senior, so I'm about to graduate, but I'm just finishing up my second year as co-president.
And I'm Griffin Frank, and I was the co-VP for scholarships the past 2 years.
Yeah, thanks for letting us come and share our story. I'm really proud of these young women who make being a global citizen come alive, because they use their privilege to really make a difference in the lives of young people all the way on the other side of the world. These young women would not be able to go to high school without these women. And not only do we give them funds to go to take the scholarships, but also the friendships that they build are invaluable, and they really give them an opportunity to grow in their learning and do big things in their lives. So thanks for letting me be proud of these young women that I have the privilege of working with.
And thank you for all the work that you're doing to facilitate it. It always takes incredible kids and young ladies and youngsters that bring it to life, but it takes adults to provide the space. So thank you. Come on around. We'd love to take a picture with the school board. So.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Forward, so you're a little bit closer behind. There you go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Three, two, one.
That's not.
It's like, with the law, they live on the island. But it's.
Yeah, I just did.
And did you?
Yes, I saw.
Yeah, I mean.
We're not taking, we're just lining up along here.
Okay. Yeah, but videos.
Well, join me in welcoming our 2024 3A state champion girls tennis team. And we also had the doubles champions this year. So a couple of highlights here. Sarah and Rachel Garten grabbed the state doubles championship with a 6-0, 6-4 victory over Lakeside. Violet and Mia Kinney were third at state in doubles, and Chloe DeGracia, how's that? Was a semifinalist in singles, also receiving a sportsmanship award. And so would love for coaches to talk about our team this year, but so much to be proud of to bring home another state championship in girls tennis.
Yeah. Well, I'm Jackie Hartman and I'm the head coach for the girls varsity team, and with me is Ron Akins, my co-coach. And we're very proud to have the girls here today. I mean, they're excellent athletes, as you know, from what comments have been made, but they're also outstanding students. They have the highest GPA with the 3.79, I heard. And this year, you know, everyone was gunning for us because we got the championship last year. And these girls had a goal. It was point by point, game by game, match by match, leading up to, you know, conference. And we had an undefeated season. And then we went to the Kinko tournament and we won there. And then for the first time in a long time, we won districts, which is very hard to do when you're going against Metro. So that was something we're all very proud of. And then went to state. You just never know, because, you know, schools are talking about the Gardens are going to be there and how are we going to get around Chloe, because they've been state champions, you know, before. And but it's just amazing to us, like I say, that there's such outstanding tennis players, extremely talented students, and they're also, you know, good community citizens. They hosted a One Love event at one of our matches, and I could go on, but I'm going to turn it over to our captains to make a few remarks.
Yeah, this year has been extremely fun and an opportunity to kind of like work together as a team. I've had so much fun as a senior with all these players, going to state with them was just really fun. And I'm so sad to be leaving this team, but honestly, it's just been a great 4 years of my high school career.
Yeah, exact same thing as Chloe. Such a fun season, all the new and returning members. We just had a very successful season, but everyone just had a lot of fun together doing it, and then just topping it off with the postseason tournament. It was super fun, and then getting to play with my sister was a special experience, and I'll always remember it.
Sister.
And you want to introduce those of you who haven't introduced yourselves? Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Oh, I'm Jessica Shing and I'm a junior. I'm Audrey Tintle and I'm a freshman. I'm Jane Tintle, also a freshman. I'm Sarah Garden and I'm also a freshman.
Or all important members of the team.
Awesome. Congratulations. We'll do a picture with the school board. Yes.
Everyone step forward a little so you're closer behind the
Blooming.
board, yes. 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2.
Becca, thanks for hanging in there. Come on up. We might use meeting to get that one. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Decca, thanks for hanging in there. I'm just gonna turn it right over to Miss McClellan and roll with it, but another banner year.
Oh my gosh, banner year, but can we all just take a moment and reflect that, I don't know if I speak for all the adults in this room, but I am so intimidated by the parade of kids coming through here. Wow, half the time I don't feel qualified standing in front of them. So, anyway, thank you for having us. Thank you for honoring this group of students. This is a portion of our international DECA team. And I want to quantify or explain how amazing they are first with some numbers, and then I'm going to turn it over to them because of course I'm not the one that's interesting here. So we have a DECA chapter here at Mercer Island School District of 246 students. So it's a very compelling club. We have a lot of participation in that. Our first sort of bar that we have to pass is area. And we have probably the most competitive area in the world. It's a really strong group of schools in there. And so you have to get past area to state. So this group did. And then at state, of course, at that point, there's close to 5,000 kids that they're competing with at state and need to qualify there to go off to ICDC, is what we call it, International Career Development Conference. I also can't remember what acronym is. So we headed to Anaheim in April with 23,000 other students. Again, put that in context, Mercer Island has a population of 22,000. So they were in Anaheim with the same level of population that we have here. So they did superbly well. And we did place we actually placed 2 in finals. And then Nikesh, who's not here, because of course he's working, because that's what DECA kids do. He ended up placing 6th in the nation, or in the world, which again, 23,000 qualified at ACDC, but that's actually, the starting number is 250,000 DECA kids. So that's quite a feat. So we're just so proud of these students. So I'm gonna have them talk. What I'm gonna do, and Jessica didn't hear the prompt, so you get to catch up here. Actually, we'll start with Elizabeth, because she's all clued into this. A name, grade, and then one thing that you learned from DECA. And not that Mrs. McClellan loves Disneyland, it's something else, so.
All right, like she just said, I'm Elizabeth, I'm a junior, and one thing I've learned about DECA is really how to think on my feet and getting in a stressful situation, learning how to just go fast and just keep moving, even if I don't have like the best idea at the start. I know that when I keep writing things down, eventually I'll get to somewhere that's coherent and then I can speak to it to a judge, so that's really nice to learn.
Hi, I'm Mateo, I'm a junior. There's a couple of great things I've learned from DECA. One thing that DECA has really helped me in is being creative, because in the category that I'm in, you're given 10 minutes to think of a business plan on the spot and kind of how to solve issues. So that creativity has been developed in my life because of DECA. And also DECA has been a great experience to meet new friends, because we spend almost a week together. And also because it's business, it provides great skills in our respective categories. So just the business life skills that it develops and the creativity that it's helping with has been really great.
I'm Zach, I'm a junior, and I think what I enjoy most about DECA is just the insight you get into what it's like to actually go into business in the real world. How you kind of get a head start on that in high school, which I think is really rare to find in other places.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Saran, I'm a junior. And I actually had a similar idea to Liz. It's being able to be a very quick thinker and come up with ideas right on the spot. So I think that's something I've learned.
I'm Jessica and I'm also a junior and everyone kind of already said what I was thinking. But overall, just, it really gives me the opportunity to take what I learned and also just learning new things and coming up with quick ideas and communicating them clearly too, and a really quick.
So they represented Mercer Island beautifully. We're so proud. I'll do one last quick introduction. Zach and Saran are our co-presidents for DECA next year. So they were selected to do that, and the process of selecting the next, that's a huge process, the next set of juniors that will also essentially be their assistants for next year. So any questions about the competition or anything about DECA? Okay,
No, but I'm just so impressed to see so many kids like popping up in different contexts. It's like almost every group of kids has included a kid or two from the previous group. So it's just nice to see that like we've talked about at meetings before, it's not just like, you know, kids who are into science or kids who are into business. There's a lot of overlap in these areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, last time. Okay.
You should stand.
Yeah.
Honorary DECA kids.
Yeah.
No, it's a little bit.
Step forward a little closer to the board.
Oh.
There you go.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
One more, 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I know, it all worked.
And we have one more recognition tonight, and that is what I referenced earlier. Coming to the end of her 2-year term is Asha. And I want to give the board a chance to say some things. We have a couple things for you as well. But let me turn it over to you first, Asha. Any reflections or things you want to say?
Yeah, I'm just so grateful to have gotten the opportunity to be on this board. When I came into it, I really didn't have anything in mind except for student voice. And it's so much more than that. Like, I never would have learned how a school board works or how the inner workings of a school district work. And it allowed me to make so many connections with peers that I wouldn't have been able to reach out with if I wasn't in this position, and become close friends with some of the admin team at the high school. And so I'm really grateful for everything that it's taught me and all the things to open my eyes to. And hopefully maybe one day in the future I'll be on a school board as an adult, but yeah.
Great. Maybe you want to start us off?
Yeah, so Asha, I couldn't have asked for like a better mentor and a partner. And like, I really like, you helped like the transition of this position, like so smooth, so easy. Like your advice is always like top notch, like everything you say is always the best. And I've learned so much from you, like organizational skills, like your leadership, your strong voice, and your ability to crack jokes that like parents and adults laugh at. So always try to be doing that. And yeah, so having you as a partner has really helped me like look forward to this position even more. And yeah, like even more than like being a work partner, right? You become like one of my favorite friends, best friends. And I'm really gonna miss you when you go off to college. Yeah. And your shoes are definitely gonna be really big ones to fill. Yeah.
And board members, just open it up to you.
So you did have really big shoes to fill. Asha had really big shoes to fill, and it was, you know, kind of in the back of my mind, how's she gonna do that? You've really done it. You've really learned what you know, in working with Andrew, who has definitely a style. You really went and ran with it and took it and made it your own. And then watching you then mentor Ava in the same way, it's been really fun. I, you know, as as a mom too, it's been really fun. You know, for years I was hearing Asha this, Asha that, and it was like, who's Asha? And so, it was just fun. And then here you are on the board and we didn't really know each other and you and I know we're able to develop our own relationship and, you know, so it's just really fun. It's fun to look through, you know, have another friend's eyes to look through. You've really, you know, helped our board, keep in mind what matters, which is the student voice. And I know a lot of that comes from your journalism background and, really asking good questions and making sure that we do always remember the important things, and what we're serving and why we're doing this. So it's been a pleasure. There's no question in my mind you're gonna succeed in whatever you do. I know you're gonna come back and visit, and Mom's here today, and just thank you. And you've really made an impact on this board, on last year's board, and then I know you will be looking one on future boards. The board and has gotten card and so I'll pass this on. I know everyone wants to speak to, but I'll just pass this on and congratulations. Excited to see you walk across the stage on Saturday. And good luck.
Yeah, to echo what Deborah said, thank you very much for how much you enriched the board. In particular, the student report is not only the most entertaining, you know, part of the board meeting, but I think vital too. Boots on the ground, sort of give us insight on day-to-day, a week-to-week basis of what, you know, what has happened in the school. And that's invaluable. And without your participation, we wouldn't have that. So thank you very much. And have a good next few weeks and then on to great things and wherever life takes you.
I just think, thing that's the most impressive about you is your confidence and when you speak and the way you conduct yourself in meetings. Like, I mean, you know, Christina and I are new on the board. I'm the newest on the board. And I think I came on like right before we went to the Hill. And I'm just like, what are we doing? And you were like, this is what we're doing. This is what we did last year. This is where we're going. Oh, look, it's representative. You know, like you just basically were like, you're an adult, I'm a student, but let me like tell you what we did last year and explain it to you and really help you understand, you know, our role in this process. And you don't always see those communication skills and that confidence from students. And it's been particularly impressive. And I really appreciate your role in the meetings, bringing us back to the student perspective. And I remember some meeting where we all got kind of carried away with what we thought was the best role. And you're like, well, actually, and you sort of, you know, gave us the student perspective that changed the way we were thinking about it. I can't remember what it was now, but like, you should really change the way we were thinking about something in particular, because we had sort of gotten our like adult hats on of what was important. And you're like, this is actually not the way to be thinking about this to best serve our students. And so, and of course, service to the students is why we're here. So I really appreciate your role on this board and just the way that you've, you know, helped ease our transition in as new members this winter. It's probably torture for you having to sit here and say so many nice things about you, but
I did want to say that I have really valued your input. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what the issue was either, but on multiple occasions, I can think of cases where I changed my mind about how I was thinking about something, or I kind of changed my like frame of reference because of feedback from you, or both of you really, and you and Andrew before. So I think you played a really important role on the board, but mostly I've been so impressed. You're very quiet, except when you're not. Like you're very confident, but you're confident in like a quiet way. You're not like in everybody's face, you know, you just like kind of happen to have the right answer and kind of happen to know what you're doing. And like, when you don't like the ratio of really important, interesting content to how many words you say is very, very high, which is rare. So, and everything that you have taken on in this role over the last 2 years, you have done it 110%. Like not only have you delivered on what you say you're gonna do, but you've been like, and here's a better way to do it. And now we're gonna investigate doing it this way. And then you've like left the board in better shape than you found it. So thank you for all your service to the board and to the district and to the kids of Mercer Island School District. And I just know you're gonna do fabulous things and I look forward to hearing all about it. So please stay in touch.
I think for everything that they have said, I think that you are a fantastic leader.
I think that the two times that they really got impressed by you, one was when we went to speak with Senator Wellman and you gave her kind of, you talked and she listened. I think that it was a huge difference how like they listened to you and not necessarily as well to us. But the way that you delivered the message and they heard you, it was just really impressive and I could see as the leader that you are and the leader that you will become in the future. So I am looking forward to seeing that your mom will report kind of your whereabouts and where life will get you. And I will say that the other time that we had all the students here that we have, we interacted with students and you were the leaders of those students like and how they respected you and they were talking about how you bonded together in the student when we had the language session with the students. And it was also heartwarming to see how much they care about you and the leadership that you have. So you are really a great role model and I'm really happy to see you go, but I'm also very sad that you will not be on my right side.
So Asha, you know, it's not gonna, I don't have much longer when I'm gonna be able to say I had someone as a student because you're all matriculating out, but I had the opportunity to be a principal and you in the elementary school and you know, I recall you then and to see where you are now is not surprising. But I think a few things that you should feel really proud of, and that is, you know, leaders can look, sound, act in very different ways and still have big impacts. And, you know, each of your predecessors, you know, had their own style in way. And when you follow someone who has a big personality, that can be challenging and yet, you know, hard to navigate. And you were always just you. And I think that allowed you to be the leader that you are and demonstrate you too have a big personality. But you helped to really change the whole trajectory of our superintendent student advisory from last year and then building this year. To hear those students yesterday all talk about being able to do projects in their schools. I mean, you were the original thinker on that with Andrew and whatnot. And so as you head off, you know you made a difference in our district. That will not just be the 2 years as a board rep, but is going to continue on. And you've also paved a great path for Ava to be able to pick up and for Lucy to come in and assume that spot. You know, you've really shown us, you know, a new path and a new way to be a student and still be a governor on a school board like this. And so along with Caroline Atkinson, Megan Cockaball, Paul Noon, Morgan Dawson, Andrew Howison, there will now be an Asha Warner on our plaque. And we also have a certificate of recognition for all your work on the school board. So.
One, like he was.
You have to do it again.
Do it again, again, now that.
We're gonna do a group picture? Sure.
Oh,
we can
yeah,
do a group
okay,
picture.
sure.
And how about we all stand up in front of the logo? And just push the chair aside, and Freddie can get it. But Asha, you're in the center.
Right.
Perfect. And then you write it in the aisle.
Yeah.
Yes, it gets holding you in the hands. That's what we want to share.
You're all there? Okay, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us have it.
Thank you. It's a couple of years. 2 days. Yeah, is it? Oh, there's a little issue with it.
Okay, that's the end of our recognition.
If you want so much. All right, next up, we have public input. What were we saying about the, I didn't even, oh, sorry, you have other recognitions to make.
Oh, sorry, we do. We have a couple of others in the month of June. Thank you. We have LGBTQ plus Pride Month, and next weekend, there is an event at the Mercerdale Park that will have information coming out from the school district for Pride in the Park. We have Eid al-Adha, which is a Muslim holiday. Among other things, it kind of signifies the end of the pilgrimage to Hajj, to Mecca. And then Juneteenth, coming up the day after school ends this year. Our Black Student Union has worked with the city, and they've really facilitated, and for the second straight year, they are the main organizers of the Juneteenth event at Mercerdale Park. And so the Pride event is 2 to 5 next Saturday, but the Juneteenth event on June 19th, which is Wednesday, will be 12 to 4 Mercerdale Park. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we are at public input. If you would like to address the board, complete the form attached and submit it. The meeting is a meeting of the board in public. It is not a meeting that guarantees interaction between members of the public and members of the board. When addressing the board at the meeting, please limit your remarks to not more than 3 minutes. Appoint a spokesperson if the concern is a group concern, and if desired, provide written documentation to the board secretary. Public comments that name or otherwise identify a district student are not permitted without permission of that student's parent or legal guardian. The board may direct the superintendent to respond at a later date to the issues expressed. We have one public input today, and it's Seth Landa.
Well, I'm gonna be a little different tonight because I have a friend here, his name's Ron Cohn. Ron was a student here and played for Ed in his first 2 years here at Mercer Island High School. I'm gonna read out loud the things I told Ron. And I want you to know you guys can really relax tonight, because I promised Ron I'd be really nice, and I just tell you little things about Ed that you probably don't know. So you're gonna get all that tonight, so don't worry about anything surprising. Anyway, so I told him about the school board's meeting where they denied any consideration of the basketball court being called the Ed Pepple Court without any community input. I told him that 3 members of the board hadn't even been here longer than 10 years and did not really have any community knowledge of the coach. And what I mean by community knowledge is when one lives here during the history. I told Ron that the school board president, Deborah, was here from first grade to graduation. And Coach Pepple was the coach all those years. And she clearly knew what Coach Pepple did. Now I have to edit this because I promised it. Now, Dan was here, and one of his best friends was a star for Coach Pepple. So Dan knows. Out of respect for Ron, I'm going to be diplomatic. And the only thing I'm going to mention is that I hope that by the next meeting, that you guys bring up a motion to reconsider this and take some public input on whether that court should be named the Ed Pepple Court or not. Anyway, you saw those kids that were here today that were all state champions. Do you know that if you look before Ed Pepple came here, I think there was 1 championship for Mercer Island. Now we'll look at how many championships there were after he got here. Because Ed Pepple created the word culture. We use it a lot today, but it wasn't used back then. He created it and it spread throughout the school. There was no more talk about losing. So you gotta check that out and see what input he had. Once you know he's a Marine. And when he was in the Marines, he started a team in the Marines, a Marine basketball team. They were so good, not only did they win the Marine championship, but the Marines disbanded and sent them to all different bases because they were so good, and it irritated the officers. Ed was given a full scholarship to the University of Utah without them ever seeing him. It was on the word of a coach. 5'9", he became an All-American there, 2nd team All-American. I know I don't have a lot of time. I hope you give me an extra minute to let you know a couple of the people that let their kids play here. Bill Russell, one of the top 10 basketball players in history, his sons played for Ed. Why didn't he send him somewhere else? Fred Brown, one of the greatest 3-point shooters in history of the NBA's kids, played for Ed. Why didn't he send him somewhere else? I can't tell you some of the stories about the nice things Ed did, but I want to just tell you one really quick. There was a kid here who's made a commitment to go to Pepperdine. The coach left Pepperdine. In those days, you could not transfer if the coach left, so he was stuck there. When Ed found this out, he went to the airport within a couple days, bought a ticket, flew down to Pepperdine unannounced, went to the athletic director's office, sat there, wouldn't leave till he met with him. He met with him, told him, I gotta go to lunch, Ed, and Ed said, I'll be here when you get back, and he was. And Ed stayed there till 4 o'clock on his own dime and convinced him to let this kid transfer to where the coach was, which is at St. Louis. And what came back up here. That's the kind of guy he was. I'm really asking you strongly to reconsider this. The principal at the high school, the athletic director, and the coach all support it. If you look at the comments, the radio station actually said that Jim should be named after him. There's over 550 people that have now signed the petition, including, as I told you, the mayor of Mercer Island and members of the city council. Okay, there's a reason for that. And I want to end this because I want to stay within this time as close as I can. I want to read you something. I know you all know who Coach Mike Krzyzewski is. Okay, he's the coach at Duke. He coached Duke and he coached the US Olympic team. This is a letter he sent to Ed. Dear Ed, congratulations on your 523rd victory. You are not only the winningest coach, but you're the best coach in Washington. There are a ton of letters I could read you. So I'm going to end it with this. I beg you to look over this again. And next meeting, consider opening it up, even if it happens in August. Open this back up so we can talk about it. Let the community be part of this. Because you know what's going to happen. I told you that that doesn't happen. You're going to name this podium after me. Thank you.
Next up, we have.
Ledge priorities 3D.
Thank you, that's what I thought. We're on 3D, board officer and board member duties, legislative priorities, and I will pass it off to.
Regularly.
Proper font size. Agent. So I met with Superintendent Rundle either earlier this week or last week, time at a meeting. To talk about some of our legislative priorities that I feel like we should, as an island, will be both. Most in our interest and most achievable and things that we can focus on for the upcoming legislative session. Of course, I am open to discussion and questions from the board. I think one of our top legislative priorities could very well be the funding issues that still open the schools. One of the things that I'm most concerned or most interested in is the difference just between what we pay for our insurance and costs and what the state pays every year. And I believe it's over $1 million a year gap. And that we're trying to make up. And that's something that we can be addressed through our legislators. I mean, it's a state agency and a state agency. So I feel like that is something that we need to talk about.
And Director B, I did grab some numbers for you.
Okay.
You had asked about, so in 18-19, insurance was 419,500. Next year, we are budgeting 1,003,000 in terms of just that. And then utilities, we have seen a 42.8% rate hike or increase in utilities since that 2018-19 year. And so, you know, the MSOC dollars just are not matching, but I wanted to get you those. And then on that 4% experience factor that has a blank in there, if we were to get that, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, that's $700,000.
Yeah.
So we'll talk more about that.
So, okay, so then the one thing is the MSOC adjustments, which is the, you know, basically the bill we have to pay and the money we're getting from the state to pay it. Another one is the experience factor that Dr. Rundle just talked about. And that's basically, talking about like the years in service and the experience of our teachers. And then what the state provides to like move up a level to accompany the different pay levels. I'm explaining this well. And it has been last evaluated in 2021, 22, and it will not be evaluated again until 25, 26. So that's 5 years of sort of experience building up in our system that we are not getting money from the state for. So.
And that was kind of it was the old formula with McCleary went away. We used to receive the experience factor, then it went away. And because when they calculated it, we didn't quite meet the threshold. But now we would, based on the experience as teachers have rolled up, but that 4% is a big loss in terms of our overall, and some districts get it, some districts don't. The fact that they won't review it again till 25, 26, instead of annually is something that we as districts are looking at. I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
No, that's,
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a review that could be, that we would have, asked to have done earlier. There's the, of course, the ever-present regionalization, which, provides, like, it's basically like different amounts of money for school districts based on where, the cost of living of the school districts, and we're at 18%. There is some talk of lowering that, then what we would like is to like at least stay there or even go higher, because as we all know, in Washington state, the cost of living is quite disparate across the state, and we are in probably one of the most expensive areas. And this is something that Dr. Flores has talked to me a lot about, and really helping me understand it, and it affects a lot of different ways of how we spend our money, on personnel and on everything that we spend money on in the school district basically is affected by this issue. So we have to make sure that our region maintains its 18% at least, or it would even be reevaluated and go higher as the financial picture of Washington state for sure has changed just with inflation and everything in the last several years since it was last checked. Other issues that we want to address, I'm just gonna skip down to student engagement and support, because one of the things that and then under this area that I find particularly gripping is the mental health staffing and funding that we're doing, and the special education funding that we're doing, and the academic counseling that we're providing in schools. And this is all about our students' mental health, which as we know is a priority. And especially in this post-COVID years, our special education, as we are working with mainstreaming classrooms and really integrating our classrooms, we need to have the funds available to do that successfully and to help our students, our educators and our students succeed. And I'd like to see the prototypical school model, which is sort of the baseline funding for our schools, to get more funding for our academic counselors, to help our students succeed after school and to help them to sort of chart out their path for their post-school existence. Our mental health staffing and funding, of course, the state provided funding is not adequate for our needs. We are lucky here on Mercer Island that through the combined efforts of many different foundations, including the Youth and Family Services Foundation, where I serve on the board, our counselors, and we are the only school district in the nation, I believe, that has a counselor in every school. But there is no reason why our community should be so much better off than other communities. And I feel like the work to really increase mental health funding in our schools is something that we can be leaders on in the state.
And on the mental health, we're probably the only district that has mental health counselors that are in partnership with the city, who then are able to provide services that a school district isn't. We're bound by certain things that we can or cannot say because of a free and appropriate public education, and it's a really unique model.
And it's one that, I mean, our counselors are busy. We have a lot of counselors and they're full up. So obviously the need is there in the community. We have our back up to our facilities, capital improvement, transportation. The energy efficiency benefits and incentives, because we're facing construction potentially in our district. Our renovations of buildings in our district, that's something that we really want to be ever aware of. That, just making sure that our buildings are as efficient as possible and that we're getting some incentive to do that, so that it's not just doing it out of the goodness of our heart, but just construction should be incentivized.
And the transportation.
And the transportation the same, yeah. And there is the issue of the tax relief for construction, which I believe Director Flores has brought up before, but public school construction shouldn't necessarily be taxed as the same private things, and that's something that we might want to address. And then there's always the bond voter threshold, which is an issue that's been ongoing in the state, I believe, for several years. Lowering it from 60% passage rate now to 50 to 55, which would of course benefit us if we're trying to pass a bond or any future bonds, but also would benefit other communities where they are completely unable to pass funds, because of official.
So just one quick comment about tax relief for construction, I mean, putting apart whether or not there should be tax relief or not, that at least I think the position of the board should be that it should be, all school districts should be treated equally.
Right.
Under whatever proposal may come to fruition. So.
Yeah, it's not something.
Yeah, so if there is any changes,
Right.
to make sure that we are not excluded.
Got it. So similar to the energy efficiency benefits, making
That
sure
it
that all
applies, that
districts
it
are.
applies to, yeah, applies to all districts.
Yeah. And then there's a couple priorities that we talked about last week, or at our study session. That seem to be not under our bailiwick, and one of that is there's the very attractive proposal that our students should be allowed into UW if they qualify as for social qualifications, and that is actually under the Washington State Council of Presidents and not the legislator. And there was some talk of working to provide more internship opportunities, and our school district already has some partnerships with WNIC, which is the Washington Network of Innovative Careers. And internship issues don't seem to be as, on further investigation on my part, don't seem to be as high a priority for things that we can achieve easily because it's already somewhat addressed. So that's a lot. I'm sure we'll get that done. Thank God we have 2 legislative reps under our belt now. Is there anything that I missed that we talked about last week that we want to discuss more, or basically what we're trying, our discussion here, the purpose of our discussion here is so that we can sort of come to some agreement of what our priorities might be, so that when we're individually or collectively meeting with our elected officials, we're sort of speaking with one-ish voice. So that they know what we as a board, of course, we're always welcome to talk to individuals as individuals, but like we as a board are prioritizing.
Yeah, I guess like one question I sort of thought is if we have legislative priorities that might be legislative in nature, but not addressed by the state. So I'm gonna go one to the question about the Washington State Council of Presidents when it comes to guaranteed admission. I mean, still, it's a political body that it seems like that there's legislative,
You can advocate,
And-
it would just go to them,
Yeah,
not through the
yeah,
legislature.
exactly, and then related to that, we didn't discuss it, but in preparing for this meeting, sort of one thing to consider would be regional solutions to declining enrollment. And how as a collective, whether or not there should be a regional approach and for advocating for a regional solution for those issues, such as, I mean, when we're talking about open enrollment, I mean, one of the discussion points was, well, if we don't engage and then other districts are, so there was sort of the collective action problem. And when I think of sort of collective action problems, I mean, those are also legislative problems.
Like that, I mean, like, I know personally, I've been involved in sort of like a network of East Side school board directors, of newly elected East Side school board directors. We've been sort of like supporting each other. And we've been coordinating and leaning on each other there and sort of trying to like amplify our own voices by working together. Christina's in this group with me. And I think that is a sort of, that might be somewhere where, like, it's such a good idea, like where we can have a collective voice and work together to be louder than we are just individually in our districts. And I don't know if it would go so far as like, if we're like coordinating programs, but we're certainly like speaking to each other. Like, that's how I got the idea of the legislative rep overall. That's how we talked to them. Certainly sort of like thinking and clarifying and thinking about enrollment or things like that. So I don't know if that's like a legislative focus as much as it is just general. We should continue to advocate and work with our regional school board partners. Does that make sense?
I think the lines can be sort of, clearly there's certain issues that are clearly legislative issues, there are others that are just. They're larger than our district, right? Maybe this is not the best document, or it's something that, can be amended over time.
Yeah.
To include some of these non-state centric legislative items. But I'm just something put out there for discussion and consideration.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I know it's a big ask and it might be why people kind of avoid it, but the whole prototypical school model needs to be revamped, and the legislature refuses, and obviously so many of these things fall under that. But I don't think we can stop asking for it, because they're trying to fund a model that doesn't work. It's kind of idiocy at its best, right? I mean, why are you funding something that we know is not effective and doesn't work? Let's create something that maybe works better and actually funds all teachers and students and blah, blah, blah. So I don't think we should give up on that. I think that we can couch a lot of these things under that. I think it's great. I mean, in terms of like the bullet points and everything, I mean, and the things that you really focus on, I think avoiding some of the, we don't agree on our board how to best address open or enrollment decline. I think taking it, every district is so different that for me, I think we'd be much more effective this is legislative priorities, whether it's national or federal or state. And it really needs to be certain, very concrete things. They're not gonna wanna be creative thinkers. And I mean, prototypical school models are already too creative of thinking for our legislature. I don't know why our structure is this way, but it is. But to then like throw them, like solve enrollment decline for us, like Washington's growing. So it's because that's where there's land. So they continue to grow. So I don't think this is the right document for that to be on here. I feel very strongly that I don't want to be a part of any document that suggests anything other than democracy. And they can do whatever they're gonna do with 55, we know is better than 60, but democracy, I mean, everything else in our country is based on democracy, and people can have different political opinions. Every vote, it's 50+1. And why would funding our kids be a higher burden? I get that they might split the baby, but I don't think we need to hand it to them on a silver platter. I think they need to really justify it. That's my view. I know there's other ones. I think I guess my concern with talking about asking for an increase of regionalization when they want to cut it is I'm wondering if that's going to backfire. I think a stronger approach would be to really focus on the levy regionalization that does fund so many of our programs.
As long as that the funding of any levy that is not coupled with an increase under LEA, because then that's just inflationary. It's not getting to the heart of the issue, which is that there is different cost of living in the state. So the details matter on that. Like, I mean,
I don't think I said anything about a detail. It's not just, we know how many staff that we fund through our EP&O levy. So we need that regionalization.
Because there have been proposals to increase the local effort assistance an amount that would exceed actually any increase that we were allowed to put before voters for regionalization, which I don't think would move the needle at all, would actually be stepping back.
Because, so if districts who qualify for LEA, which we don't have that levy assistance. So what you're saying is, if they're also increased and we're increased, then we haven't gained any ground in recognition for where we live.
It's not about pay differential. I mean, understood this is a document of the board. I think there's two separate issues. There is, do we get enough revenue? You know, do we have enough to spend? But then the other, which I think is in some ways more important, is what does the comparative landscape look like? Because it's an employment landscape. What are other districts that have cheaper cost of living? What do they have? So yeah, I mean, to me, it's not just, hey, we can now ask more money from our teachers, more money from our taxpayers to give to teachers. It's, can we offer more money to our teachers than other districts?
But why do we need to be able to, I mean, I don't want to get into, we need to be better than everyone else. I want to get into the fact that our cost of living is higher. So our cost of labor is higher and our staff needs to be able to live in a reasonable proximity to our district. If then there's LEA, it's an entirely different issue. And those are districts that can't pass levies. And so the legislature steps in and helps them out. As long as they're not taking from us to give to them, who cares? I mean, of course they should. I mean, if they created this ridiculous system of levies without fully funding education. So make sure that everyone has what they need. And like I said, as long as they're not taking it away from us to give it to them.
I think
an excellent
They are,
focus.
that's where
Well,
state
that's
taxes
big
come from.
proposals.
I mean, state taxes are paid by our taxpayers. It's not modeled from heaven.
I think that a clear focus for our legislators is just the idea that, the regionalization and the extra money that we need for being in such a high cost of living area should be at the very least maintained, but certainly increased. I do think that, you know, with the budget, it's not like pie. I mean, we can all have another piece, but, and the regions that will be getting the LEAs are probably not the ones that we would be trying to get our teachers from anyway. Maybe just because, I mean, I don't actually know which ones they are, but I'm just saying, like, you know, in our particular Puget Sound area, it's all sort of high cost of living. I think that rather than like trying to drill down with our legislators, maybe into the details of like what particular aspect of something we would like to do, is just sort of a unified voice of like, this is important to us, this is what we're getting from the state does not meet our fiscal needs, and we need, you know, our costs are much higher than costs in other areas of the state. And I think that it's a more effective message for our legislators. And I worked on the Hill for several years, but just like, you know, rather than have someone present some sort of like micro proposal of like, this is what I want, you know, from you specifically, it's like, how can we pull this into something that we're doing and push that success?
Well, and I think the point, I mean, my point is, we need this regionalization because our cost of living is so much higher. Don't take it away from us somewhere else that we're just gonna have to make up for. I think that's just a very simple message. They can structure, they can give whoever they want, they can give whatever they want to whoever they want, but don't give us something and then take something away that basically means you gave us nothing.
Right, and what we're seeing, I mean, what we do see from the legislators and from the state is just sort of a parade of like, do more with nothing else, right? So like, do more, not even less, but just
do more.
Just do more.
And we're gonna take away.
Here's your empty plate.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess my point with the prototypical school model is, it all comes down to fixed, gosh darn prototypical school model, and a lot of these issues will solve themselves.
Is there interest in looking at that?
By the legislature? No, because they think that they're one and done. They think that they finished education in 2018. So, but I don't think we can, if we stop asking, they're never gonna touch it. But, so I mean, I just think it has to be on the, you know, I mean, you mentioned prototypical school model, you get an eye roll, but we're not gonna solve any of these issues. Like maybe we'll get bits and pieces with the MSOC or the experience factor or something that is very, very concrete, but we're not gonna, they're not gonna touch it unless it's demanded of them. Or until one of us sues them, which they keep waiting to find out why, or waiting to see why we're not. I mean, legislators 2 years ago, when we were pushing the special ed funding, was, why haven't you sued us? Because it takes 10 years, can't you just fix it so you know it's a problem? Right? I mean, so I guess I don't want to see it off the table just because we know that they have little to no appetite for it.
Yeah, and because almost all of our issues fall under that, right? Like it's easy to keep bringing it up while like also advocating for the issues that are important to us.
Right. I mean, if they want to pay for school construction, they can charge more in taxes and then give the districts what they need. Like they can change the system. Like, school construction should be part of basic education. You can't teach kids if you don't have a place to teach them and a safe place to teach them. So this is the structure that they came up with.
Right.
So fix it or fund it, at a minimum fund it. And wouldn't it be better just to fix it? I just think that, I don't think the answer is to stop asking just because it's a difficult ask and that we know we're gonna get met with eyeballs.
I think there's a lot of voices on the prototypical school model. I'm not sure I still appreciate the logic of we're not treated fairly under a more centralized state system. Wouldn't it be great if we gave more money and discretion to the state?
I think our legislators care even less about poor old Mercer Island and the idea that, you know, we're suffering than trying to argue for prototypical school model. And I think that goes with our values a lot better than saying, give it to us. Prototypical school model impacts every, 1.1 million students across the state, as well as all of our staff. And to me, that's our values. It's inclusion at its best. Like, we know how much we benefit. I don't think we need to fight for as much as we can get. I think we need to fight for what we need. I'm not willing to go in and fight to take away from people who need more.
And I don't think anybody's suggesting that. I think that what we are seeing is sort of like factor after factor with the, you know, with our insurance bill, with how we compensate our educators, with how our classes are organized, with our professionals, have how many counselors we have. What we're seeing with factor after factor after factor is the state is not providing enough money for us to do the excellent job that we want to do. And while we are extraordinarily lucky on Mercer Island that we can make up a lot of that funding gap through the benefits of our citizens, that's not the case for everywhere in the state. And I think that.
And I will say that not only that it's not the case, that is not enough.
Yeah, it's not enough.
I think it is, because they will always say like, well, this is the box, like, it's never enough. We're very short still, regardless if we are building up, it's not covered.
Right, and it's not to make it reliant. I mean, I was thinking about like funding, you know, like the donations to the Youth and Family Services Foundation during COVID just plummeted because people's incomes plummeted. You know, that initial like unemployment shock of and you know, I could see that in our bottom line. And then we're just like, oh, we have to go into our savings to help fund these school counselors that we've already committed to funding. And so it's, you know, we need to be reliant on the state, not on individual foundations to meet our basic needs of a state funded education.
I think one of the, you know, as you are kind of coalescing and coming together on this, you know, I struggle with this with WASA and some of the others, you know, their ESD, they put things on there that aren't necessarily gonna help us at all, or aren't ones that I completely agree with. What are the key ones that I do? I think the questions that you're kind of asking each other, or maybe what you want to think about is there anything on here that's been proposed that just fundamentally you cannot absolutely get behind, and are there things on there that are really important to you that you can get behind? Because it will take all of us championing these, and I may not, as superintendent, be able to speak to one of these as well as one of you, but we all work together on it. So I don't know if you'll have consensus on everything, but together, does the package at least cover those things that you can get behind?
Yeah, I had another thing related to funding is like, I know last year we like touched on like the FTE. So like, are we still gonna push for that?
I think the levy being counted by head count, not right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that was huge.
Remember?
Yes. The only thing on here that I have a significant issue with is I won't ask for a bond rate of more than 50+1, but.
I mean, I think bond rate of 60% is fine, but it's a board doc. I mean, the thing from my perspective that's important is when we look at funding for clean energy, that we're treated fairly, underneath tax relief or new construction, that we're treated fairly when it comes to apportionments we can pay living wage. Everything else that's sort of, I think, covered by a lot of the state, you know, organizations. There's a lot of voices on it. Even if I don't support it, the rest of the board does. It's a board, you know, document. I can live with it, but I think there are some vital things that we need as legislative priorities to make sure that where we're not represented, so that we represent the people that elected us in our community.
And what I hear, and I think I appreciate about that, is there's a difference between what are the actual priorities and what are the values and hopes that we want to have and being treated fairly and not penalized because of being, you know, property rich or whatnot. That's something we want to make sure we put out there is, you know, some of these things that impact us or we don't benefit from, we're getting penalized. If we kept our transportation fleet at a, you know, we maintained it better than other school districts, then we shouldn't be penalized for maintaining our school buses. Is that kind of what you're saying on that?
To me, but I mean, in that same line, that's what we vote. I mean, like I said, there's nothing else that requires 60% from a popular vote, and that's not fair. It's not fair to our kids. So it's that idea, and I agree with you on don't treat us differently, and you know, you can say property rich, there's people who are property rich, not.
Right.
So what they need to do is restructure the tax system, so we don't have the most aggressive tax collection system in the country, but you know, we know they're not going there.
So bringing it back to this document, just to some stuff, it sounds like everybody's okay with what we have here. Sort of this basic, you know, people feel like a lower vote, non-voter threshold. Right, so it's not a discussion to show out, but. I mean, do we wanna say that Laurel's just asking for 50, or is that just something that we're like?
You don't have. to
Lowering
put
the
a
bond
number
is
on
a
it.
priority of us, we don't have
Right.
to like, it's not, you know, I think. And, you know, there's things that some of us feel more strongly about than others, and I think it's totally fine for, you know, we don't have to always go in with the same 6 talking points, we can say these 4 things are important, and. As long as we're not like saying I'm BT dubs, the other 2 priorities aren't great. You know, I think it's fine, I don't think that anyone expects every board member to have the exact same message when we're dealing with our legislators in our communities, I think the important thing is that. We're supportive publicly as board members of our board priorities. And then, you know, we still maintain our individual rights to do whatever we wanna do.
So we can bring a clean copy back to you all on June 20th. I do want to commend you as a board, at least in my time as a district, we've never gone into a summer with your priorities in alignment. And to be able to have meetings with the PTA advocacy group, to be able to think about the meetings that I have with our representatives in the summer, knowing where this is, you know, I think it's great by all of you. So did I cut you off? Director Martinez?
I have a question, but I always have questions. So I know that the legislators, they work on a biennial kind of agenda, right? Like they have 2 years. So are we thinking that this will be our 2-year priority? Although we will revise them, I'm sure, but this is how we envision the next 2 years, or is only next year that we envision? Just.
Well, I think we're looking to the year ahead and then we'll keep some and add some, but it's like a living document. And also it may be that the legislator takes something up that we're like, this would be great for us, or it would be terrible for us, and then we'll react accordingly. I understand it's like a rolling, set of priorities where we can modify, and then maybe sometimes it will be time for like a completely new set, because maybe the economy has changed, or the whole landscape has changed, you know, or they've actually addressed one of these things, and then we can prioritize other typical school
Based on-
fix.
Right, based on last year's Down the Hill and the MSOC coming up, I mean, I would encourage us all to really hit that one. Because in terms of, the responses that I've seen and gotten from legislators is it's very concrete numbers, and it's state, you have a responsibility to pay, like we have to pay insurance, so you need to give us the money so that we can pay insurance. And same with the utilities, and it's very concrete numbers to say, here's what the increase has been, you have to match it, and there was a lot of reception to that, and that's a pretty significant amount of money. You know, at a minute, it's a fairly easy ask, it's a lot of money, but it's very understandable of exactly where it's coming from. They don't have to change any values of their values, they just have to say, oh, we maybe should actually pay for that, like we're legally obligated to. So my recommendation is that any conversation you're having, that those numbers get thrown at them. Yeah.
We'll, if it would be helpful between your June 20th meeting and either your first or second meeting in August, we can put together then an electronic folder, but also a a folder with a bunch of documentation for each of these with facts and figures. So that you have them whenever you're talking or whatnot, you know, Kay, just, you know, she's been cranking this out, this, you know, all the insurance over time, utilities, and so we can put together some data for you so that when you're having conversations, you've got live data throughout special ed and whatever, if that's helpful.
I have another question. So I know that when we were talking about the Washington State, they have mentioned, that it will be beneficial to meet with this other organization. So for the insurance, would, meeting with the insurance commissioner, will be something that
It's,
or not catalyze this?
I don't know, you know, in terms of the rates for our insurance, you know, those are set so differently. It's really part of our Washington risk management pool that we're all together. Those costs are quite different. I don't know, would it help to talk to WSRMP or?
Because I know that they're electing a new insurance commissioner this year, so I don't know if that is something that is part of the.
I don't know, get asked to school. Yeah, we can ask them.
It's a good question. I mean, my gut says the answer is gonna be, like, they can deal with that. Like, the legislature can say to the insurance commission, like, figure this out because it's costing too much for us, but we just want to pay for what it costs us. Right? I mean,
As a starting place, but it could
Yeah.
be, where do we chip away on the other end of it?
right? You don't, oh, no, you don't have a driver yet. Just wait until you see what your auto insurance goes to. All your partners.
That's something that the legislature.
It is,
address.
well, it's what something the insurance commissioner should be addressing. Okay,
Okay, so for this, we'll just try to approve it in June.
Yep, I've got a bunch of notes here, if you and I
Yeah.
can connect on that and then bring it back. So,
big letter.
Meeting in June.
We passed 1005, 3C. Are we gonna set an election at the next meeting? Did we say that? I just can't remember what we said.
That's what I heard, is that at
Yeah,
your next meeting in the 20th is when you'll
So
go through the
it's
process that you
June
just.
deadline.
approved.
Right, with the chain.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, just couldn't remember what we did. We are to the consent agenda unless I missed anything, and I just want to point out a correction in the meeting minutes, that there was a correction in the meeting minutes from 4/18 due to an error, a scrivener's error. I don't know. But anyways, I just want to point that out, and then looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Seconded. All in favor, students?
Aye.
And board? Any opposed, any abstained? All right, so the consent agenda is passed 2050. And superintendent announcements.
Just two of them. One is, we've received some positive feedback about our message this morning about the attempted luring of two of our students down at Lake Ridge. So we have two elementary students who are both at Lake Ridge. You know, with the attempted luring that happened yesterday after school. It wasn't on school grounds, as we mentioned, but Ian and I were on the phone with MIPD last night. They weren't ready to put out a statement, and so we didn't, as everyone went to bed. As we woke up this morning then and got new information, we did put the information out and tried to use it as a public, you know, safety announcement as well. We don't have any updates on the investigation from there. It's an ongoing investigation with MIPD at this time. I did not hear about anything this afternoon, but I was made aware in a pre-meeting with Director Leah Martinez that there was a student-on-student shooting over at Garfield today. I don't know anything about that one, but our hearts always go out to our schools and our local school districts when they go through.
And unfortunately, that student did die.
So it's gonna be a tough day and tough week and tough month coming up there. I think we remain very committed to student safety. Every time we get a tip through our Say Something, we are responsive to that. We were working on one just yesterday, and paramount importance is school safety. But appreciated the community kind of getting behind, and hopefully we can bring justice to whoever was down on the south end yesterday. And then lastly, we don't have to decide it today, but Director Lurie and I were looking at our schedules. The last meeting in August is right when a lot of students, I know we're gonna be trying to take our kids back to college or to college. There's the possibility of maybe moving that meeting to August 29th. I'm gonna put it in the board agenda or the board update this week, and then you can let us know and check your calendar, so you don't have to know now. But the proposal would be moving the meeting, I believe, from the 22nd to the 29th, if that works. If it doesn't, we can leave it on the 22nd, do Zoom or whatever. And I know, Director Woods, you have some travel coming up there too, so check your calendars and then we can go from there.
Those are the easiest day to suggest, it doesn't mean it's because it's a Thursday.
Are you gone with that?
It's a work in August.
Okay, 22nd or 29th?
22nd does.
Okay, so we might be able to leave it, we'll do Zoom or something, we'll figure it out. Those are my announcements.
Okay, legislative report, anything else?
I think we've heard enough from me.
Announcements, inquiries and reports. Oh, students, anything else?
No. That's a graduation on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, I'll see you guys all there.
So, your announcement. Yes, it's a big announcement. For me, I think this is the last time we met. I only attended the SEAC, the Spring Equity Meeting. That's the only one. There's some discussions between the group about the graffiti that was found in the high school, and it was a lot of community input that it was received. And one acknowledgement, I think it's also a lot of discussions and brainstorming. And besides that, I know that the staff recognition happened before, like. So we attended the staff recognition, was Director Lori Lee and myself. And after that, there was the middle school band concert, which also was it was fun. They did play the theme song of Barbie at the end. That was very fun to see the excitement of those sixth graders doing that song. And besides that, I just want to invite everybody that this coming Sunday, June 9th, at Mercerdale is the Wear Orange Day reminder. That's right. From from 11 to 1 p.m. And I think that it will be great if people will go there and support, because I think that there's, as the news today, very sad to hear that there's so much more that we need to do to make sure that we make a difference, especially for our students. That this is not okay.
And wearing orange is
Wearing orange is an awareness to for gun control. And gun control means we need to do something to stop this violence, and especially it's towards all the communities. But absolutely, this group also was formed after every school shooting. So it touches a lot into the younger communities, but it is about gun violence in the country, and that it has escalated in the last couple of decades now. It's 11 to 1 from Mercerdale, and it is they will be recognizing, some survivors of gun violence, and there will be just support.
And also, just to remember, there should be 14 kids in Connecticut graduating right now, from the Sandy Hook, just, that was. The graduate, they would be graduating right now, about for gun violence, so it's a fitting time to remember that too.
Yeah, and I will say that if you cannot attend the event, it's a great way to anyway wear orange outfit in the community to, it's a statement to say, we do want a change and we have to stop this from happening there.
Thank you.
I can't top that, so.
No, I have nothing else, thank you. I went to the IMS PAC meeting and, the principals are working on sort of like trying to trigger like the proper communication level. They're hearing from some families, they want more communication. And of course, some that they don't. So, just trying to work out different ways to be more effective communicators with the family set and, without putting a new burden on the staff. But it was a very fun sort of workshop with them, some of their ideas, with the other parents on the committee. I went to the band jazz ensemble group played at the Triple Door with, Tim Warfield, who's let's say jazz player, I can't remember who plays now, saxophone maybe? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, which was great. It was super fun. It was the first time I'd been there, felt very cool, brought, my older son with me, much against his will, but he had also a good time. And then last night, or Tuesday was I'm at the band concert for the high school, so all 3 bands played, plus, of course, our senior band, which is a nice tradition, so the 7 students who are seniors in the jazz program, Jazz 2 and Jazz Ensemble, played, a cute little song that they think learned during Zoom times. So, it was very fun.
There was a Mercer Island High School PAC last Thursday, but we had special study sessions, so there's a conflict. I could not attend. I haven't received minutes yet, so nothing to report there. Just picking up briefly on what Christina mentioned with the graffiti in the bathroom. I just wanted to assure all community members, simply and clearly that we denounce anti-Semitism in our districts and all other forms of hate. And any violations of that will be dealt with expeditiously and appropriately. I think sometimes principles and trying to articulate the broader principle can detract from the context. And the context, I think, particularly in our community that has a large Jewish population is different than many in the last 8 months. My father goes to morning minyan regularly. He was actually the individual that opened up the synagogue and found large amounts of graffiti all over the synagogue and reported it to the police when that happened last year. Many families on the island have brothers, sisters, friends. They go to colleges and universities and other parts of the country and have dealt with the disruptions, the classes, as well as, being fearful and intimidated of being on campus. And just wanted to acknowledge the context for those concerns when it comes to instances of hate in our own community, in particular in the last year, anti-Semitism. But that's all.
I've been to a lot of events in the last 2 weeks. Like Christina mentioned, the staff recognition event, just strongly encourage board directors whenever you can, to attend events like this. I think it really does make a difference. Our staff, you always hear the negative more, right? And this is such a positive way to recognize our staff who makes an impact on our students every day. Don't ever feel like you're not wanted there because I think people do. I went to the baccalaureate that I'd never been to one before and just went because I know people planning it. And it was amazing. It was, non-denominational faith served. It's okay. It was just asking because I would have you say something about it too, but non-denominational faith-based service where students, musical performance or talked about the impact that faith has had in their lives and growing and in this community. And, you know, I've always kind of ho-hummed it, that was just my reaction to it, and, it was amazing. I mean, to hear these students, I wish we had recorded there, I wish I had been recorded so that people could hear these messages. But the one overarching theme that I think I heard in every one of their talks was community, and that they find community through their faith. And that it's all, you know, here, and then they all come together at Mercer Island High School, and that's their community too. So it was just really meaningful, and, you know, I was even part of the committee, I was like, do we really need to do this? Do people care? Like, do they want to go? It's just another event. I would say I'm a convert. Like, it was amazing to hear their voices, and how their lives have changed and been impacted because of that. So, again, I know there's a gazillion events. That was just, you know, it was a nice little hour-long thing that was really nice. And, faith leaders from our community too participated and gave a blessing, and, you know, it was just really nice. There's the International Entrepreneur, that wasn't yesterday, Tuesday, they presented their annual report. And it was such an amazing example of, you know, we've had conversations in the past, and I hope that we continue to do so, but about capstone projects and, you know, really students finding their pathway, whatever it might be, and really kind of showing at the culmination of that process. And this was, you know, what IE is, for those of you who might not know, but it's the capstone project for the business program. And it's a group of 25 to 30 students, seniors that are selected, they apply in, and then they basically become a corporation, and they elect a CEO, and they run a business, and they raised upwards of $20,000 this year. They took over the tree lot from MIYFS, which is how their funds grew, but they've really taken it and run with it and made it into a community event, and they're adding things every year. But, you know, they talked about, they established a business plan, and, you know, Matt worked with them on a regular basis, and, you know, filing financial documents, and then their Mother's Day 5K, creating a new event. And it was just really interesting. I mean, when we see it's monitoring on steroids, and it's frankly the way our monitoring should be. So I actually said something to Dr. Mendelstein, I'm like, why don't we have them in? And, or at least we go, like, do it during a meeting where that's our monitoring of some of the fundamentals, because it's ultimately, it's where did they come from and where are they now? I mean, I was a business major in college. We didn't do anything like this. Like, this was not part of learning at the collegiate level for a business degree. So, anyways, it was just really fun to see, that coincided with my own students learning and kind of getting to where she is, but watching students go from where they were and seeing the world open up and seeing real world applications of their learning. Matt's totally laughing at me because they're an incredible group. So,
rough leadership this year, right, Asha?
yeah, the CEO just was an ultimate like failure. Yeah, her brother is the CEO, was the CEO. And so anyways, it was just, when we talk about capstone projects, it's just kind of another one of these gold standards that I would love to see every one of our students be able to have an opportunity like this in whatever interests they want to pursue, or it could be a passion project, or it could be a, career thing or an academic thing, like whatever, I don't care. I just want to see our students have these opportunities. And so it was really a super event to be able to witness. They just did a whole annual report presentation. It was great. They talked about things that went well. They talked about things that they could have done better, that, they wouldn't do again. It was just a really great opportunity. So that's it. And I'll see y'all Saturday.
Great.
Congratulations on your last. Yeah. Want to make a motion? I was like, make a motion.
Oh, yeah, wait, what did you say?
You want to, I move we adjourn.
Oh, I move we adjourn.
So, second. Can I get a third and fourth just for,
Third and fourth.
okay, just for technical purposes? All in favor, students? And board? We are adjourned at 8 o'clock. Well,
That's my.